you.
Hi, everybody. How is everybody doing?
Oh, you know.
Yeah, welcome to the
Great.
Transatlantic Call-In Show, where you get to talk to real-life trans people about any type of questions, political, even, I don't care, you can bring it on, but really about trans issues, anything that you're questioning, thinking about anything that is trans-related, any questions about gender-affirming healthcare. So yeah, make sure you call into the show. And today here with Josie Caballero, myself, and Luxander. How are you today?
Wow. Doing pretty good. I'm excited to have this show with you because it's the first time you've been on Takis since the election. So I'm sure we're going to have a lot of like very specific kinds of things to address. I know, folks like to ask very specific political questions when you come on. So yeah, I'm excited to have the conversation. It's going to be a fun time today, I hope.
It is, and I'm on a different computer today because I am in Texas, and so I don't know, Lex. I should have asked this before the show. Do you have the call hub available up? The
Yeah,
call
I have
screener?
Call-In Studio
Okay, great.
up and
Okay, if
ready
you
if
have it
you want
open,
me
I don't
to.
have it. I don't. Yeah, if you could be the one that drives that, that'd be great.
Sure.
Wonderful. So I'm not going to have access to that, which is going to be very interesting. It's like I'm flying blind. I'm flying
Yeah.
blind.
I just need to decide who we have on the show. Which, by the way, we still have open
Yeah.
lines, everybody. So if you want to get your calls in, if you have an oppositional position you want to take, or if you're trans and you want to ask a question about some community thing, we are open to that. The phone number, if you want to call in, is 720-619-2288. We do still have a couple of spots open, so get in before the queue fills up. Appreciate y'all. Oh, and by the way, don't forget to hit the like button, okay? It's the top of the show. There's 140 people here. If you hit like, it's free, and it immediately tells YouTube to show the show to other people. So let's keep the momentum going. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, I'm on my brother's computer, so I actually just subscribed and liked the show from his account. So
Aha.
so we will get likes if people like it or not.
hmm Yep. And I
Awesome.
don't know if you heard last week. I know that people in the chat are talking about it right now. Matthew, our repeat caller, is not going to be welcomed back for any further conversations. So if any of you are super annoyed by him, he will not be here.
What's the tea? What's the tea? I missed
Oh, you
the
got to watch
tea.
the episode. You got to watch the episode.
Oh,
I read him for
fine.
filth. It was great. I don't want to rehash it though, but
it was
so
amazing. It lives in my head rent free.
yeah. It was perfect.
Oh, now I'm gonna go watch it. Oh my gosh, I feel so behind now. Oh, it's like coming back and realizing that a friend in the friend group is around, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, we don't talk about them anymore." I'm like, "Oh
Mhm.
no, how did I
Yeah.
miss a day?"
I can recap it for you afterwards. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah. So, Transatlantic Call-In Show, call in. I see people in the chat. You have like some questions. Call in. If you have questions for us, we don't respond to chat questions during the show because we want to respect the time of our callers. So, do we want to go ahead and jump in and get ready for our first caller?
Yeah, we can go ahead and it looks like I'm appearing very blurry. I don't know what it is. I don't know if
You're
that's
out of
just me.
focus.
Arden,
Could you put your
am
hand
I
close
out
to
of
the camera?
focus?
I don't know if it's gotten autofocus. Now pull away. There you go.
There it
Now
is.
you're
Oh,
good.
there it
better now.
is. There it is. Yeah, different camera. It's like new computer. Who's this? So yeah.
For sure.
I miss my home already. I want my computer. I want my flags. I want my fluffy cloud. And instead, I have like an animal stuck to the wall there, and I'm just like, oh no. That animal had hopes and dreams and a family, and now it's just hanging over my head. Oh, so sad.
Judging you, watching.
It is judging me. It's so mean. All right, we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, so first up on the queue, I'm just going to take them in order for the time being. We have Chase, who uses they, them pronouns from California, wants to talk about safety for trans people traveling across red states, and wants to ask Josie specifically how to get more involved in activism. Chase, you are live on Transatlantic. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good so far. No complaints.
Great.
Good. Let me take my phone off my headset. I was working, so I didn't want to miss, but I think my phone works better.
Fair enough.
Okay. Does that sound more clear?
Yeah.
Both of them sounded pretty clear, so whatever's more comfortable to you works.
Oh, it don't matter. I just know that my girlfriend says that she can't hear when I have my headset on, so
Oh, fair
I
enough.
figured I'd go that route. Yeah, so one thing is we have been moving our lifestyle into a van so that way we could travel across the country. But now with the election, I don't know how safe we are or how to know what states necessarily. I mean, I know like Tennessee, Texas, stuff like that, but I don't know how unsafe or safe it is to be. I'm relatively queer presenting, but not like super queer presenting. I know that makes no sense, but
No, it makes sense.
I just don't
I
know
get
how
it.
to do that stuff or just avoid red states or what.
I mean, yeah, you definitely have to take into consideration like where there are bathroom laws. You know, if one or both of you have like you tend to use a bathroom that is not the one that you're legally required to use in some states, like that's a consideration for me. I'm going to be moving across state lines, and I'm like, should we just not stop in the state of Utah? Like, period. Maybe, um, or be willing to make alternate arrangements if you're doing the whole pee in the bottle thing, I guess. I think if you're just transiently going through places, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. There's always the chance of being pulled over because you have out of state tags on your vehicle. So basically just brushing up on what are the correct things to say if you get pulled over, making sure that you have like your clipped answers because they're going to try to dig for something that they can search your car over or whatever. Yeah, I think those are just kind of the basic precautions that I would take is, making sure that you know where it's legal for you to use the restroom and trying to minimize the interactions that you're going to have with cops and, being safe, where you park at night and things like that. Just, pretty standard safety stuff for travel.
Yeah, and
I'm also
I'll also mention about the bathroom laws and things like that. A lot of times they're only instituted in government buildings and like schools. So a lot of details are important when you take a look at those type of things. But yeah, I would definitely keep your head on a swivel. I mean, it's not going to be as different as it is now, right? If you're going to a very rural area and you're just like, I don't know, these people are looking at me weird because I have purple hair, you may want to just like use that instinct and just be able to move along. Most major cities, you'll probably be fine. So if you want to like make sure like if you're like traveling from one place to another, if you're in an area you don't know, try to find like the nearest city. I think is also a very important thing to understand is like most cities in America are usually pretty great when it comes to accommodations of queer and trans people.
Yeah, I think that's why I have the concern because I would be doing both. We're hikers,
Mm.
and so we're gonna be in the backcountry a lot, and then also the cities just because I want to get a little bit taste of that. I want to be a little bit more
Mhm.
cultured and explore what we got here. But I was also wondering about like I've been seeing a lot of videos of like Nazis and the your body my choice and a bunch of stuff like that, and I'm like, man, I'm really privileged to be here in California. Almost makes you not want to travel, but I still want to. Um, and so that's something I've been thinking about. Is there any like do we have anything within the community that kind of helps us understand the laws of different states for people who are traveling? Because, if I'm spending, let's say, 6 weeks in one state and then 6 weeks in the next, that's a lot of education every single state.
Yeah.
Or if it's a shorter trip, then, it's kind of tough to just be aware of everything all the time.
Yeah,
Completely
there's
understand
a
that. Yeah.
organization called MAP, and they actually compile different lists of states that have different laws. For example, you can look up if you put in Google like which states have trans ID laws. You can then see like all the states and the requirements. You could do the same thing for which states have bathroom bills, and if you pull up and it's map organization, then you are going to probably have a pretty good idea of how those laws are instituted in those states. I'm also a hiker myself, and I always generally think the hiking community is pretty great overall. I would say that the hunting community is not so great. So if you're going hiking with a lot of hunters, which I really don't advise anyway because of your own safety, but like then maybe you should worry. But like as far as like most hikers, especially through hikers, hikers just want to go out in nature and walk around. I haven't really heard a lot of stories about any type of harassment outside of like us. Well, outside of just people being predatory, just for being predatory to all humans. But other than that, I mean, you know your risk as a hiker, especially if you've been experienced, which it sounds like you are an experienced hiker. I am as well. You already kind of know the risk as you go out there. So I would just, I maybe wouldn't go hiking and like maybe the rural parts of Louisiana and Alabama. I don't know. I mean, unless you like to hike in the swamp country, and that's your deal. But there's just different places that you could be able to figure out. But like even most national parks, you're probably going to be fine. When it comes to like just going out there and hiking. At least that's my experience. But you can always double check and like maybe go on different forums and say, "Hey, I'm going to Zion, which is in Utah. Like I'm going to Zion. Is anybody having any issues with being visibly queer walking the trails?" And you could probably get some answers pretty quick if you try to find some forums like that. But I think what you're doing already, asking the question, is already keeping you safe because you're already like looking into it, and I think that is already keeping you're being observant of your surroundings. And a lot of times in these situations, it's about if you're walking in a city that you're unfamiliar with and you see an alley that looks a little shady and some people that you don't really look like maybe you don't want to interact with, you don't walk down that alley. It's the same type of thing when you're walking as queer. You just kind of like keep your head on a swivel and you look for the signs. And it sucks that we have to do that, but a lot of minority communities have to do that as well. And so just it's a hard one. It's definitely a hard one. It's like I don't want to say don't travel, it's scary, because queer and trans people live on every corner of the United States, rural and urban. So people are living it, people are doing it, they're fine. And so yeah, don't restrict yourself of the time because of a law that may may be enforced in a very loose way when you want to go to a national park and see some nice pretty nature. But that's kind of my thought.
Yeah,
I would say
I feel like I'm.
I just wanted to give you one
ahead.
quick suggestion for where to look up a map of this whole thing. Erin Reed's map, erininthe.morning.com is her website. She has at the very front of the website, it's a link to her article that shows like a map of the United States with a color grading that shows which ones have the most extreme anti-trans laws. And then she does in the text of the article explain like these states have passed laws where you're required to use this certain bathroom or whatever. Because like some of the ones that are like, oh, this is the worst color. Some of those are ones where, the driver's license change has been removed. Like you can't change your gender marker anymore. So she does kind of go in a little bit of detail as like, here are the states where you actually need to worry about something that's going to impact you kind of as you just go along. Since obviously, if you are not trying to get a driver's license in that state, that particular anti-trans law will not affect you. If you're not trying to get healthcare in that state, then the healthcare laws are not going to affect you. So Aaron Reed, I put a link in the chat earlier, but if you missed that, it's just like Google Aaron Reed trans map, and that's a pretty concise
I'll play
resource.
back the call and look it up later.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's all very helpful, and I'm super excited to look at those maps. Thank you. One of the things that I've noticed is like the laws are a little bit less concerning to me than the people, and it's interesting because it definitely reveals a lot. When I really tried to convince myself that I was a straight white man, I never had fear anywhere, and over the last couple weeks, especially since the election, I just suddenly started feeling anxiety around people all the time, and I think that's probably what sparks the question, is watching that privilege wash away, which is fun because it lets me relate to a lot more people, but also crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's good on that conversation, unless you had anything else to add.
No,
that's pretty much it.
Okay. So then my other topic, if we had time, I wanted to ask both of you, but probably specifically Josie, about political activism.
Sure.
So I'll just give you a little pre-ramble from where I come from. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and we're not allowed to know anything about politics. So I knew nothing like 3 years ago, and so I spent a lot of time trying to educate myself, and I'm really happy for you, Josie, because it was you specifically who I was starting to go away from Jill Stein into voting for Kamala, but I didn't quite get it, and it was you who made me understand the importance of it. And with that being said, I would like to know where I could go next to try to get more involved. I'm going to try to go to college for political science and biology next year if I can. But what else can I do in the meantime? I am technically homeless because I live out of my van. So I don't know if that impacts anything. I don't really have like a district or a jurisdiction that I know that I can do because I don't have an address, but I would like to do whatever I can.
Well, in the state of California, you can still register to vote even though you're unhoused.
Right, I did that. They helped me out at the...
Okay. Okay, are you there? Oh, did we lose you? Chase, I may have had a weird connection issue.
Yeah, it's showing the call is still active in call-in studio, but it is lacking
Does
some
your
call
phone
quality.
go to sleep? Touch your phone. Oh, no.
Sorry.
Maybe try plugging in your head. Oh, there you are. Okay, great.
Yeah, my headphones took over the call because I bumped them.
Okay.
Okay, got it. All right.
I'm sorry, what did you say last?
So what I was saying is, so you're able to register to vote. That's the district that you live in. So that's important to know. So it depends on what type of activism that you want to do. I'm always going to say, make your Democratic Party stronger because they suck and they need to get better at their job at being able to do outreach. I can say that now. The election's over, right? But it's really easy to get involved in like your Democratic Party politics, especially in California. They have a lot of Democratic chartered clubs. A lot of times there is a queer club, either it's a Stonewall club or like the LGBTQ, county Democratic club, whatever it is, Dems for Equality club in your county. You can find that information by going to your local Democratic Party county website. And if you find the list of clubs and you look at the one that speaks to you. So if it's like a Stonewall club, even like a marijuana club, like there's all types of different clubs. Like, there's like in San Diego, there's the Blue Dream Democrats, and that's like they're working on trying to make sure that people have access to marijuana and legalization across the country. So there's like there's different clubs and different affinities that exist for these clubs. I always say join one of those clubs because you can go to one of those club meetings and you'll be able to meet activists that have been doing it for a while. And you can be like, hey, I'm new here. What should I know? And you're going to get the lay of the land in your local county on, okay, this politician sucks. This person lost last time. This is who we're trying to fight for. The county party is good or bad, whatever all that information is. And then you can then go from there if you want to get involved politically as an activist. And then obviously, if you don't want to be politically active, there's a lot of, you could go to your local LGBTQ center and be like, hey, I'd love to volunteer, get in some work. Let me know what I can do. And they'll point you in the right direction as well. But definitely just go on Google, find your local county Democratic Party, and then find out what clubs are affiliated with that county. Go to one of those club meetings, talk to some of those folks. If that club wasn't good, then go to a different club and just connect with individuals, and you'll see how quickly you'll be brought into the volunteer apparatus because of the fact that there isn't a lot of people getting involved in democratic level politics. So there would be a lot of room for you to be able to jump in and actually start getting connected to what's happening locally, especially when candidates start announcing for office. You'll be like, oh, this candidate's thinking about running for office. Then you contact that candidate and be like, hey, do you need help? Do you want me to knock some doors for you? Like, what are your plans? What are your ideas? And you'll be surprised how little effort it takes to get a local seat for an area with just a little bit of hard work and good ideas. So I just said a lot to you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to replay the call. That's my first thought.
Okay, fair enough.
But that sounds all attainable. But my question back to you would be, how worthwhile would it be for me to start getting involved with my local county if I'm going to be moving counties for the foreseeable future every couple, like 2 to 3 months until I settle down where I hopefully can go to college. So I'm not really going to have one area.
Yeah. In that case, there's. Well, it depends on what are you looking to achieve personally with your activism, is my question back to you.
I'm still unsure entirely, but I would like my career path to be something that makes the world better than how I entered it. And I don't really care what avenue that takes, but it seems to me that might lean into the direction of actual politics or some form of online activism. One of those two routes.
Got it. So, and it says you said you want to go to college and all of that. So this is a great opportunity for you to just pick up mentors along the way, and finding other people who are experienced and just picking their brain about how they got involved in politics. Everybody takes a different avenue. I took a specific avenue that involved a lot of field organizing, door knocking, running my own campaigns, running for office myself, doing all of that. And that led me to where I'm at in my political career. There are different ways that people can get involved. So you may be able to find a good mentor that will teach you the ropes of what's going on. Also, the fact that you're going to kind of be mobile and not like working on one specific job. There's probably a really great opportunity later in the cycle, especially since this is an off-year election cycle, to actually just call Democratic parties and say, hey, you need a canvasser for a few months? I can knock doors, and just, do an hourly job, just knocking doors, talking to community members. I always say talking to community members, people on the ground outside of the internet, is the best thing to do. The metaphorical, touching grass moments. When you're able to actually go and talk to people in communities, you're going to have a better gauge of like what the actual voter wants and needs in their life. And so if you could pick up those jobs and be like, hey, I'm going to go, work a couple weeks or a month or whatever for the Democratic Party because they need a canvassing program for a candidate that you're trying to run for a special election, you can go and do that. And you will be able to actually learn a lot about like the political process and getting people out to vote, which is probably the most sought after skill in the political climate. Like if you have like a couple months, if not a full year of time worth that you knocked on doors and like actually worked on campaigns, even if they're small and sporadic throughout that time, that is very valuable skill set that a lot of people are looking to achieve. So I would definitely think about figure it out. I think if I was in your position, I think would be a cool thing is like, I'm gonna go to an area where there's a special election, right? There's gonna be special elections. Even if they're a Republican leaving that seat, like go and work for a special election. Special elections usually have a lot of money because they're the only race running in an area. So there would probably be a good way to like make a quick buck. Sometimes depending on where you're canvassing, you can make $25 an hour going out and canvassing. So think about like, hey, is there a race that's happening in such and such area? And then you go and help that race in a special election. So yeah, right now I think is your time to learn, get experience, go and doing the job. And like if you wanted to be an expert in building houses, well, go bang some wood and with some nails and like start talking to contractors and figuring out how to do that. It's the same type of thing with politics and campaigning. It's like any other profession. Just start learning the pieces of what it takes to run a campaign, and then sooner or later you'll realize it's like, oh, I have that skill. Oh, I have that communication skill. Oh, I know how to run a field program. Oh yeah, I banged a couple thousand doors. I know how to make sure that there's a good field program here. And then that's how you move up the ranks. It's not glamorous by any means at the first part of it, but after 15 years like I've been doing it, then you can actually start leading national projects, statewide projects, and things like that. It's a very hard like I always say, politics and getting in the career of politics is not for the faint of heart. It is a hard, arduous journey that a lot of people don't make. Like I think when I started my political career, I think I had like 100 organizers by my side that were working hard. I think out of those organizers, there's like 5 that are still doing the work, and they're all badasses. And so because they actually took the time and kept taking the hits and kept getting better and more agile at the work.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. As a ex-Jehovah's Witness, so what I used to do was pioneering. So I guarantee minimum 70 hours a month of preaching. I've got a lot of experience with door knocking, and I've also got a bit of experience with changing people's minds. Unfortunately, negatively when I was a witness, but also positively because I managed to change a couple transphobes' minds and get some people to vote for Kamala just because I could regurgitate what I learned from the line. But,
well, that's great. That's great. And that skill set is very sought after. So if you already have that experience of hours and hours of knocking on doors, people will hire you.
Yeah. I'd be down to do that. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. And watch the call back. I gave you a lot of advice. But
Oh,
it
yeah.
is
I'm gonna
definitely
watch it back and take
a
notes.
all right, good. Awesome. Well, thank you, Chase.
And then I
Yeah.
also wanted to thank the line for supporting the SSA. I put what I could into it, but I think I'm going to get back out of it, hopefully, when I do end up getting some education in there.
Yeah, for
Good.
sure. Champion the SSA, everybody. We're investing in our future by investing in secular student alliances across the country. So thank
Yeah,
you very much
I'm
for
an
that, Chase.
alum. I'm an alum of SSA. I actually was part of an SSA in college. Yeah.
Awesome.
How cool. I learned about it through the
Yeah.
line, and I started looking into it, and I'm like, I hope that I can get into that, and I think I can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chase. We appreciate your call. Hopefully some of that advice hits true, and give us a call back at some point after you become like a smash hit grassroots politician. We'd be glad to have you back.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll let you know. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thanks. Have a great day,
Thanks.
All
Chase.
right, have a good
Bye-bye.
day. Bye.
All right.
I've been wanting to
So,
have that
yeah.
exact conversation for a while, like,
Mm.
because I think that advice is so important because so many people ask me, it's like, Josie, how do I do what you do? And I'm like, I don't know. That's a tough row the hoe. That is definitely difficult. But honestly, like, there's so many people who are willing to take that journey to
Mhm.
actually get in and get their hands dirty and actually do the work. Because, I always say it's like, I'm like a political garbage person, right? Like, it's just like I'm taking out the trash. But not everybody wants to take out the trash. Like, it's a job that is difficult to do, but there are people who want to do that and serve that way. Pushing the sludge through the pipes to make sure that we get a better country, better world, and it's not glamorous, and like 99% of it is like just going door to door, having conversations of defeat and losing and not getting policy, like getting people elected and then see them completely turn their back on the policies that you helped them get elected on, like heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. And that 1% of the time where there's glamour and like, you did it, we changed the county, it's like after
Mhm.
10 years of hard work we did something, like, it's like it's really difficult on the heart. And that's why I always say it's not for the faint of heart, because you have to get into this work knowing that your heart's going to be broken, but it is all worth it when you do get that win that nobody said was possible. But yeah, I mean, I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess. That's why I keep doing this work. But yeah.
Yeah. And you have to work your way up, I think is something else that people, it's like, you can't just do what Josie does. You have to
Mhm.
like work your way up to that. And it's like that in the military. It's like that in the film industry. Like you have to start by fetching people's coffees and doing stuff that other people don't want to do. And then you gradually, maybe then you can run for some local office, and then maybe you can run for House and then Senate and then House and then Senate, like state
Yeah.
House and
Yeah.
then federal House. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a building blocks kind of thing, and it takes time. So be prepared for that investment.
Unless you're a
So
millionaire and have all the money in the world, then you can just go
sure,
ahead, have fun.
then you just get your shoe in for sure. Okay. So just so y'all know, until we say the lines are closed, it maxes out at like 6 callers. So if you're in the chat and you want to call in, just try to call in like when we're about to wrap up a call, and then you can get in. We have not closed the lines yet. We do have a good number of people waiting to talk to us though. So real quick, before we get into that, I want to do some announcements. First of all, don't forget to like the video, do it, and make sure you can subscribe, get those notifications going. You can always join the Patreon to get some additional benefits. The members function gets you out of slow mode if you feel restricted by slow mode during the live shows. And then we will read your $5 or more super chats at the end. And I think we're doing a punishment today. So you can use your
Good.
super chat of $5 or more to vote hashtag Team Lux or hashtag Team Josie. Get the hashtag in there. And the loser has to do a punishment at the end of the show. And then I want to give some announcements for this coming week. We just had our wonderful fundraiser with the SSA, and that went super well. But for this week, we don't have any weird events happening on Saturday. So we will have Sunday show. The 2 p.m. show has Seth Andrews and Matt Dillahunty this week. The Sunday show after dark is Paul Enns and Aron Adair. Then on Monday, we've got Skep Talk with Forrest Valkai and Erika Gibbon. Tuesday, you've got Chewed Gum with Eve Was Framed and Alyssa, whose last name I can never pronounce. I'm not going to butcher it.
Lube.
The Hang Up.
Like
Lube.
Like the
Okay.
lubricant, yeah.
Good. Okay, fantastic. Cool. So then there's the Hang Up on Wednesday with Matt Dillahunty and Brian Dalton. And then I'm not sure whether we're doing Takis. It's Thanksgiving next week on Thursday. So
Thanksgiving.
yeah, it seems like
Yeah.
maybe we'll just do a bigger show closer to the main holiday event towards Christmas.
Yeah.
So that's your schedule for the next week for the shows on the line. Subscribe to get notifications for all of them. And then, yeah, are we ready to move on to our next caller?
Yeah. Let's go.
Cool. All right. So next we've got Felipe from Chile. He, him pronouns, is an atheist and wants to talk about if there are any scientific methods to know if someone is trans. Felipe, how do you pronounce your name? You're on with the line.
Hello, I am Felipe.
Okay, cool.
I want to know. I think I am a trans ally. I am a cis man. I am Latin. I want to know what are all the methods to know if someone is trans.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big question. We currently don't have like what is considered a scientific method kind of thing. Like you can't submit your brain to be scanned and then it's like, oh, there's the trans part of the brain. I found it. It's basically like any diagnostic process for some kind of psychological thing is mostly people have to self-report. And then we can measure things like quality of life. So, if somebody is diagnosed with gender dysphoria, which is like a clinical level of distress, that means like that has to be impacting their life negatively in some measurable way that medical professionals can identify. And that's for people to get medical care. That's not like a requirement for people to identify as being trans. But like medically, if they're trying to seek care, there has to be a clinical level of this is bothering you enough that it's preventing you from engaging in your full quality of life that you could be experiencing. And then the reason that we know that transition is the appropriate treatment is that those quality of life things tend to get a lot better or they resolve to some degree. So once you are being perceived as your target gender in your day-to-day life, you're not really upset about it anymore, and it's not preventing you from going to work. It's not preventing you from taking a shower because you are so distressed just by your own physical features. So yeah, we activities of daily living is the clinical term for like, is this impacting your ability to take care of yourself? So that's how we like go through a process of clinically diagnosing people. But yeah, if you're wanting to know if there's like a brain scan or like a genetic test of some kind or like a chromosome test, we haven't really found anything that is consistently predictive of trans identity. But it may be the case that like maybe we do all share the same like chromosomal anomalies or something. But obviously, we would need to put a lot of money into researching that, which people are not doing right now.
What about dead bodies? Can you do some scan in a dead body and know if it was trans or not?
No,
I don't think
there's no
so.
scans. Yeah, like so essentially, not to add, because Lux said it perfectly, it's like, would you consider, maybe this is what I would say, would you consider a diagnosis for depression a scientific method, Felipe?
Yes, sure. I just want to
Okay.
know if there is more than that.
Okay. Yeah. So what we know is, for example, how we know antidepressants work for people. So for example, antidepressants, it's really hard to prove their efficacy because it's like, oh, they started taking this medication and then their quality of life improved, while sometimes you take that medication and it doesn't. But we still provide those antidepressants anyway because they have shown enough of a market improvement in the person's well-being for them to be able to like live their lives. We're able to say, yes, these antidepressants work in enough cases for people to treat depression, so therefore we're going to continue to prescribe these medications. So it's the same type of thing with gender dysphoria. We know that gender dysphoria, for a lot of people, the best way to treat that is by letting people get gender affirming care, be it be hormonal care, be it be surgical care, be it be, electrolysis. There's a lot of different things that people may want or need for them to alleviate their gender dysphoria or make it feel, or to lessen the severity of it. And so what we do know through clinical study, after we provide gender affirming care for trans individuals, that their quality of life has improved by significant margins. So we know that although that we don't have a scan or something that we can look into somebody's mind and say, okay, they're trans, so therefore we're going to provide these treatments, we're able to ask the trans people afterward, do you feel better now that you've received gender affirming care? And if the answer is yes, then the treatment was great and therefore they're trans. And we're able to see that in that reporting. So it's a very complicated medical condition. And so therefore there's a lot of different ways that people study the trans gender dysphoria. So we're able to use the evidence from what we're able to have with clinicians and understanding what the outcomes of treatment are to better understand how to better treat trans people for gender dysphoria.
Very interesting. I don't know if this is true, but I once heard that being trans is like having um, a male brain in a woman body, or vice versa. Is that true?
Nothing that is confirmed to be the case. We have done brain scans, but every human brain, it falls within the spectrum of different sizes, different shapes, and different indicators. So it's like looking at a person and just being like it's like looking at a person who was born like a cis woman and they have broad shoulders and they're 7 foot tall, but they're cis. It's like, well, they may have masculine features, but that doesn't mean that they're actually a man. It's the same way for brains. Some brains are shaped differently regardless of what body you're born in, but that still doesn't indicate if you're going to be trans or not. And there is no clear study yet. It's inconclusive.
I think when people say that, Felipe, that they're trying to convey the experience of being trans, you may have also been familiar. I know you're an atheist, but you may have been familiar with people saying, like, I have a woman's soul in a man's body or something like that. I think that, like, trans people have gone through a lot of different permutations of how do we explain what we're going through to people so that they could understand it potentially. And I think for a while it was fairly convincing, or at least people didn't kick up a fuss about it if we said things like, I just have a female brain in a male body, or a female soul in a male body. So basically, it's just trying to convey this idea that our internal experience, our internal personality and characteristic essence is like, I feel this way, but my body contraindicates that perception that I have of myself. So yeah, we have not yet had any substantial and repeatable tests on the brain that show, like, yeah, consistently every trans woman has these particular structures that look exactly like cisgender women who were born female. Like, we do see some brain structure changes after a period of time on hormone therapy. But yeah, there is no like oh, I can scan that brain and for sure know that it's female. Like, we think that we can look at a hip bone and know if it's female, but we're often wrong about that too when we go
Yeah.
in and do genetic testing. So yeah.
I didn't know too much. I don't know anyone in my life who is openly trans.
Mhm.
So I was clueless about this. I
Yeah.
can search in
No,
the
that's
internet, but I thought it was interesting to know what you think about this.
I mean,
Yeah,
it doesn't
for
surprise me
sure.
that you in Chile are not seeing very many out trans people. There's a lot of anti-trans violence in South America in general. Lots of the names that we read out every
Yeah.
year on Trans Day of Visibility or Trans Day of Remembrance are from like Portuguese-speaking countries in South America. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool that you
And
have a resource to
Felipe,
learn about it, though.
that's true.
Well,
And I'm glad
my
that you asked these
country
questions.
my
Go ahead.
country is Spanish speaking. We are not Portuguese.
Yeah. They're Spanish speaking.
I know that
Yeah,
Brazil is Portuguese speaking. I always get
only
so thrown off
Brazil.
by that. Oh, it's only
Only
Brazil.
Brazil.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
My bad. Sorry.
Yes.
No, but Felipe, this is one thing I want to say though. You haven't met a trans person that you know of. I
Mhm.
guarantee
Indeed.
you that you've probably met a trans person, but you didn't know they were trans. Like if you were to see me walking around the street, I doubt that you would be like, "Oh yeah, that's Josie, the trans girl." Like I don't think you would say that. So there's a lot of times that you don't even know that you're talking to trans people.
I agree, but I'm not going asking people, "Are you trans?"
Yeah.
So
No,
I don't know anyone
of
who is
course not.
openly trans, so I can
Yes,
ask this kind of questions.
Yeah. No, well, thank you for calling and asking. We really appreciate you, and this is what the show is for. That's why, it is international, and we want to have as many conversations as possible with people from all over so you can actually help clear out some of the things that you may not know about our community.
Yeah. Can I ask a question, but it's about politics? It's for Jesse or Josie.
Yeah. Yeah, go for it.
A couple of months ago, here in Chile, was a discussion about finding people who don't go to vote because we have an automatic registration system. So all the people are automatically registered. And there was something in television who said this: when you to vote, the political system tend to be very polarizing because the guy who wins is the one who make more people go to vote, and usually that means trying to be more inflammatory, more saying things that are more that will generate some emotion, and usually this means being more extreme. While if you are finding people who do not vote, you have to go for the center. Is that right?
So that's a very good question, and I agree with your analysis that voters tend to want to go to somebody that is, especially after what happened in America recently, that voters tend to want to vote for the change candidate, especially in times of economic struggle. People are like, I'm going to vote for the more extreme person because I want something different to happen, and we're seeing that across the world right now that incumbent, meaning people who are in government right now, are losing elections across the world, and we don't have compulsory voter systems here in the United States because people don't have to vote if they don't want to vote. People don't have to register to vote if they don't want to register to vote. However, I will say that it's an interesting analysis to think that if you allow non-voters to not vote, then therefore people would go more to the center. But I don't think we have enough information to prove that to be the case. Because in the United States, if that was the case, then we would have gotten somebody more center like Kamala Harris instead of somebody who is incredibly right wing like Donald Trump. So if we had a compulsory voter system, would we have maybe got a Kamala Harris? I'm not sure. But it's a very interesting thought. But in American politics, we just proved the opposite. People who aren't voting did not force the Democrat or the Republicans to go to the center. In fact, it forced us to go further to the right. So I'm not too sure about Chilean politics. So it may be different in the way that the voting patterns have been. But yeah, so in America, that's not the case. We didn't go to the center.
Yeah, but you don't have a mandatory voting system. Right. And by the way, this was not my idea. I heard this in television.
So you're saying that if you had mandatory voting, you would have more center. Is that what you said?
Yes, because the people in the center tend to be apathetic toward voting, and because they will go to vote, it will be mandatory to vote. Those people will have to make a decision. And usually that kind of people like centrist positions.
That's a really interesting thought. Go ahead, Lux.
Yeah, it is a really interesting thought. I know in Australia they have compulsory voting. I think that there is an argument to be made that, well, first of all, people can submit a blank vote. Like you're required to vote. You're required to like show up and do it, but you can submit a blank ballot. You just have to submit one in countries that have compulsory voting. So people can still functionally not vote by just not clicking any of the boxes for any of the individual people. But there is an argument to be made that what this does is forces more people who are less knowledgeable to make decisions that are going to impact everyone. So, like, I think that there is a really strong argument for compulsory voting, if for no other reason than compulsory voting would mean that we probably would have like a national automatic, everybody gets a mail-in ballot, which I know that they do in like the Oregon and Washington state here. But yeah, I guess there is the question of like, do we want people who normally are very apathetic to vote for candidates that they might not know anything about? Should we automatically send out a little pamphlet with everybody's ballot that says here are what the people's positions actually are? Arguably, that would be better for society. But yeah, I do think it's an interesting premise, this idea that like we might have more centrist governance if we get more people voting. Basically is like the premise of the question. If like we do compulsory voting, the premise of the question is if we get more people voting, then what would the election results be like? And yeah, I think that this particular election in the United States showed that if more people were voting, we probably would have more Democrats winning.
Yeah.
We're showing up for progressive policies, but not for Democratic candidates because they don't tend to be in line with those progressive policies. But yeah, it's a really interesting question.
Well, I don't know if centrist is good or bad. Perhaps extremist is better. I'm not sure. But I was thinking about this that I saw in television, and I wanted to know if this is true. Why do the Democrats tend to go to the center? Because if this is true, it would be the logical strategy will be to be more on the left than in the center.
Yeah, you're right. And it is very infuriating. I was not happy with the way the Democrats ran this last election. It was way too far into the center, and unfortunately, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that people have the option to not vote. So there is a really good argument to be made that if he forced everybody to vote, then they probably would have voted against Trump in some way rather than saying, I'm not going to go to the voting polls. So, for example, we lost about 10 million votes that voters didn't come out this election than we did the other election before. So because of that, the country didn't become more right. It was just that Democrats didn't go and vote. And that is why we lost this election. Now, was it because Kamala ran to the center? I would say probably yes. But I would also say, because this was a very unique situation, Kamala Harris only had 107 days to campaign because Joe Biden did not follow through with his promise that he was only going to run one time. So when he decided to run again, it forced the Democrats and everybody around him and the leadership to say, oh, if he's going to stay in office, then fine, we'll help him stay in office, rather than saying, no, you promised you were only going to do one term, and we did not have a full primary process. Because normally in the United States, we have a 2-year primary process where we actually interview other candidates, we vote for other candidates before we put the candidate into the general election. But because we only had 107 days, the people that were running the Harris campaign were the same people who were running the Biden campaign, were the ones that said, we're going to continue to run like we're the incumbents and we're going to try to run this way. And then that's when Harris was running toward the center. And that is, I think, a failure. I think it's a big failure on the Democratic Party's side for not being able to push out a candidate that voters didn't like the first time. I didn't vote for Biden in the primary the first time. So there's a lot of questions to be asked. I wish it was an easy answer, like you said, Philippe. I wish it was like, did they run to the center? Why did they run to the center? And I think this election was very unique in the way that things happened when Joe Biden dropped out so late. And I think that if we had a full primary, I don't think we would have ran to the center. I think another economic populist would have came up and won. But we are playing the game of what ifs, and it's not fun, and it sucks, and I hate it because we are now going to suffer the consequences for the next 4 years.
Yeah. I think people are going to be asking these questions. Like, political analysts who make this their entire job are going to be studying this and asking these very same questions for years. And the answer to those questions, whether they're firm answers or not, are going to influence how the next Democratic campaign functions next time. And wow, it could go so many different directions at this point. But thank you very much, Felipe, for this very stimulating conversation. If you want to call back in the future, the next time Josie's on, to pick her brain some more, we would definitely appreciate that. But we are going to get things moving to our other callers on the line. Do you have a last word you want to get in, Felipe?
Thank you very much. It was very good to talk to you. I hope we'll talk again in the future. Goodbye.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay. So before we take our next caller, let's discuss the polls. I kind of forgot about the polls earlier.
Yeah,
my bad.
It was fine.
It's fine. we just got straight in. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk about last week's poll a bit. I want to give you an opportunity, Josie, to talk about this because obviously, like, you haven't had the chance to come on and answer this question of, do you think that Democrats throwing trans people under the bus will help them win in the midterms? Of course, 84% of our audience said no. What are your thoughts?
I think no as well. We cannot capitulate to the talking point that it was cozying up to trans people to help us lose this election. I'm on Blue Sky now, so follow me on Blue Sky, Josie Rose.
Hey.
But I put up what is it? A skeet? They're called skeets now. All right,
Yeah, they're
whatever.
called
I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, skeet. I put a skeet up about the fact that we had 0 speakers at the DNC that were trans.
That was a break with tradition.
Yeah, exactly. We had 0 trans people in senior leadership on the Harris campaign. We had 0 times Kamala Harris in the 107 days that she was running for president said gender affirming care. we separated ourselves from trans people, and we did not answer the tax of $250 million that was spent against trans people. We lost Tester, and we lost the Ohio Sherrod Brown because of it. We lost Carl Allred because the Democrats did not want to address the issue head on. And we have to stand for human rights, and that's what it is. And us running from marginalized communities will not help us in the midterms. The thing that drives me bonkers is the fact is, why did the ACLU send out a questionnaire in the 2020 election cycle asking specifically about trans immigrants in prisons? Why did they do that? Like, so when I think back on this, right, the Republican Party spent over $100 million going into that questionnaire and picking out the most niche points of views of Harris in that answer of those questionnaires. It's like, I understand if you want to ask niche questions about a questionnaire, but why make it public? And this getting me at a good time because I'm in the middle of formulating a lot of these analytical points. Why are we letting cis organizations put the narrative of what trans people care about? We did not, trans people as a community, care about gender affirming surgeries for migrants in prisons. That wasn't our top issue. Our top issue is very clear. It's about access to gender affirming care, and access to public spaces and protections in society and public spaces. That's what it is. And for the ACLU to choose that point and make it their niche issue, to make the Democrats try to defend an issue that the trans community really doesn't make their priority position, drives me up the freaking wall, because I get so angry. So people think, oh, let's throw trans people under the bus because they want gender affirming care for migrants in prisons. That's not what trans people's position is. Trans people's position is just access to gender affirming care and to be treated with dignity in society. Pretty simple, pretty cut and dry. And now the Republicans are trying to make it seem like, oh, this is the trans people's fault. They're the ones that brought up the narrative. No, it was the ACLU, which is a cis-led organization. And I'm just so frustrated by the narrative that this is starting to create. Like, oh, we can't capitulate to the trans people because they're radical and on the left, and we can't let the. It's like, if the Democrats were damn good at their job, then they wouldn't let the most radical left extremes of the party be the message that the Republicans can run on. It's the fact that the Democrats can't do messaging that the most extreme portions of our party is the ones that are setting the narrative. That's crap. It's like Brianna Wu coming to life and saying, yes, this is what the answer is. It's the most extreme people. They're the ones setting the Democratic agenda. No, it shouldn't be that way. And the fact that the Republicans can just take that as fact and the Democrats go, I don't know what to say. That is a failure of Democratic leadership. That is the failure of what we have to deal with as activists to try to fix this, because we should be yelling at the people that are activists, because activists are going to be activists. That's what they're going to be. Why are we going to try to tell activists to stop being an activist? That's their job. Their job is to try to push the Overton window. Your job is to be able to manage the messaging to make sure you have a winning campaign, regardless of what the activists are saying. It's, you can hear my thoughts are starting to come together on this stuff, because I'm not in the election anymore. I don't have to defend Harris anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that we're past that. We're past that moment. Yeah. So basically, TLDR.
Yeah.
Like, Republicans campaigned on this very strong anti-trans thing, and they consistently lost elections locally where they were like, even Republicans are tired of hearing about trans people. So I don't know why that being a losing issue for Republicans made Democrats think that being pro-trans would also be a losing issue for them. Quite confusing. The Republicans are always going to define Democrats based on things that they don't actually do or care about, you know? Like, And I think the problem is that this is putting Democrats in a position where they feel like they need to distance themselves from what they think are extreme views, like trans women being able to participate in sports fairly and stuff. So, yeah, it, again, we could go over this we literally could have an entire conversation about just this for like
Yeah.
hours. So let's move on to this week's poll. You had a chance to answer last week's poll. Now we're going to talk about this week's poll. I think that Arden is going to put up one in the chat for you to answer right now. And then there's also going to be one in the community tab where you can type your little comments in there and get your commentary noted for next time. So there was a newly elected transgender congresswoman. She's been she's been elected to the House of Representatives representing Delaware. Her name is Sarah McBride. And she has said that she will agree to follow anti-trans bathroom rules in Congress, i.e. Speaker Johnson said all the bathrooms at the Capitol are going to be only for the biological sex that you were born as, blah, blah, blah. And Sarah McBride says she will follow that rule. And we want to know your opinion on whether she is making a mistake by agreeing to this, by capitulating to this. And this has caused quite a lot of conversation on Blue Sky. We will wait to discuss it until after we take another call or two. But I want to know what your thoughts are in the chat poll. And if you want to go over to the community tab, you can leave more extended commentary over there. I know what I think, but we want to know what you think. So with all that said, I think we're ready to move on to the next caller. We are going to be closing the lines. We have a bunch of callers waiting to speak to us. And I honestly don't want this show to go on for like 5 hours. So let's go to the next person in line.
Forrest and I will go for 5 hours. Like,
yeah.
We've actually done that before.
When I move and it's 2 hours earlier and the show starts at noon for me, sure, I'll stay for 5 hours. But my husband's going to come home from work and I'm like, I want to say hello to him. So, okay. So Jack from Washington has spoken to us recently, but was told to call back when Josie was on. So Jack, hello, welcome back to the line.
Hey, Lex. Hey, Josie. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah.
Good to talk to you.
You had some concerns about being a parent as a trans person, even though you're in a blue state, you're still concerned about that. So since Josie is more directly related to the, political machinations, here's your opportunity to pick her brain.
Yes, and thank you both, Lux and Arden. I talked to you 2 weeks ago, and you both helped me out a lot with my post-election freakout, and you both recommended I call in when Josie was on. So, Josie, I'm really excited to talk to you.
Good. Yeah. And you caught me at a good time. I've had done a lot of processing. If you were just listening to my rant just a minute ago.
I was. It was great. It was very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank
very
you.
informative.
Thank you.
Right. So, just a smidgen of background on me, so that you know kind of where my brain is at. I was raised in a really bad household, and so I, for instance, anything that I had that made me happy, my parents would like immediately take away. And so I always told myself, if I can just survive childhood, right, like just make it through alive, then I get to have my own family, just filled with love and goodness. And so I finally got to that point, but now it feels like the government's about to rip that away. And so I'm my biggest fear right now with the Trump presidency is, what could they do to take my kids from me? Now, when I say that, it sounds like it's probably way too far out there, like that's not going to happen. But I know that Project 2025 is like super extreme. And so I'm having a little bit of difficulty kind of telling myself that isn't at all possible. So I just wanted to ask you, like, if they do the stuff like the making us like registered sex offenders and stuff, would they be able to just come in and like take our kids away, or strip our parental rights, etc.? My wife and I are both trans, and so we're just kind of worried about that, and there'd be nobody around us that we trust to like take our kids, and don't want them to get lost in the government. So yeah, all that.
Yeah, no, I understand your concern, but I think that's more of a President Ivanka Trump situation. No, I joke. Anyways, it would be Don Jr. Anyways, no, I'm not gonna joke. Okay, that's not. So I will say this: you do live in Washington State. A lot of times these custody situations happen when they're custody situations. Like if you were to split with a partner, usually that's when a lot of these situations are the most fraught for trans people. But since both of you are trans and it seems like you are both happy in a healthy relationship, that seems like that would probably be the that's a good situation. You're already starting on a good ground, a good foundation where you're two loving parents in the partnership of raising a child. And that is probably your best case scenario, especially being in Washington State. So I want to kind of alleviate a lot of your anxieties right off the bat there. A lot of places that are having much harder difficulties are places like Texas, where Ken Paxton has said, "Hey, go ahead and report your neighbors for having trans kids, and then we'll call CPS and all of that type of stuff." That's actually a reality for a lot of parents. I've actually spoken to parents of trans teens who have had CPS called on them by their neighbors, and that is a very scary thing. But even in those situations, those parents were able to retain custody of their children because a lot of CPS workers are human, and they're like, wow, this is really messed up. Why are we here when you have a loving family? And so that's usually how that works. So I wouldn't worry too much, especially within this 4-year period. Right now, the big things that trans people need to worry about, if you're active duty, start thinking about where you want to work. If you're not in the military anymore, maybe try to join in your local National Guard for a state if you're in a blue state, or try moving to a blue state and joining that National Guard if you want to continue to serve in an armed way. And then you also have people who receive medications through any federal system, be it Medicaid, be it the Veterans Administration. Those are things that trans people are going to have to immediately deal with. And also folks who live in states where they've banned gender affirming care for minors. That's probably all going to be confirmed by the Supreme Court in the next few months and allow to happen. And then you also have name changes. Those are things that are also maybe on the chopping block for certain trans people as well in certain states. They may say leave it up to the states, or we could possibly lose the ability to change our social security cards. But those are the things that we may see in the near future, possibly also invalidating all passports that have an X marker on them as well, because right now currently the passports allow X markers for gender designation. We could possibly see all of those passports get invalidated. So that's another fear. I listed off those things because those are the most immediate threats to trans people that we know of at the moment. And I will not expect the federal government to protect you from bad state policy like bathroom bans and things like that either. So that's what I would think about. But in Washington State, you should be fine. But I would also double check with your legislature. Call your state rep. Just call them. Say, hey, I want a meeting. Give me a meeting with your state rep that you have locally and say, well, should I be worried about me and my family? What should I do to help to make sure if you need any support? Just to get the lay of the land locally and to make sure that you feel good about that. And if the worst case scenario is California is only a couple steps down from you, so that's another place that you could go that would probably be even more helpful toward you. However, Washington State has the largest by capita amount of trans people in it. So, for example, in Washington State, there are more trans people according to the census, according to comparing the U.S. Trans Survey to the census. There is about double the amount of trans people represented via what the census would say there should be, which is like 6% versus 3%. So I hope that helps your anxieties.
It does, yeah. And again, I know people might be thinking I'm a bit too paranoid with this, but that's why I wanted to call you because I grew up with my mom always told us to like hide from the windows because if police officers saw us, they'd come and rip us away and take us to liberal school and all this stuff. So I wanted to make sure I'm not ever becoming even anywhere close to as paranoid as my mother was. So I want to make sure to bounce this stuff off of people who actually know a lot more than I do because I can tell myself I'm crazy all day long, but to hear from you, I know that you do a lot of work in this. So yeah, I just wanted to get confirmation that yes, this is probably a bit of an out there fear that not to say nothing's possible, but this is not likely on the horizon. So I really appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
if I could throw in a little bit of really exciting news, when I talked with Arden and Lux 2 weeks ago, I asked about whether or not my wife and I should continue with our legal name change, and they said yes, we should do that before it gets before the right gets taken away. So my wife and I have both officially changed both of our names, and so we are extremely excited about that.
Yay! Congratulations!
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great
and
news.
Another nice point about that is we knew we wanted to change our names years ago. So when our kids were born, we gave them our new last name, even though we didn't have that one yet. So now our last name officially matches our kids' last name, so we get less sideways looks at the doctor's office.
Yeah,
I love
that's
that.
definitely good for sure.
Yeah. So that's very exciting. But
cool.
But yeah, I wondered also about if you don't mind another quick question. So my wife and I, neither of us are what anyone would probably consider passing. And I've kind of, come to terms about that, but my wife's a bit nervous about it, which is one of the reasons she didn't want to change her legal name quite yet. But I was wondering if you have any advice of how I can best support her without invalidating her feelings of fear or that she's not passing and things, but also supporting her in because of course I think she's gorgeous and I love her to pieces, but I know that she doesn't see the version of herself that I see of her. So yeah, so like how can I support her without being like oh, don't worry about it, you're beautiful, because that's a bit dismissive.
Sure. This is what I usually tell a lot of trans women, and it's like most people don't care enough to know. And what I mean by that is like most people when they're walking through their days, they're so in their own heads. They would just like see a person feminine presenting and not even look at their face and immediately just say yes, oh yes, whatever gender presentation is in front of them via like whatever they're wearing and move on through their day. And they'd be like, oh yeah, they don't even know or register the fact that the person was trans or not, or if they were visibly trans or whatever. That's most likely the situation because I know in the work that I do, I know a lot of trans people, and I know people in all different stages of their transitions, and I've had incredibly visibly trans people, and I guess I hope that didn't come off as wrong. It's just like the people who are early in their transition as incredibly visible because I was incredibly visibly trans when I started my transition. So I'll say that. And all of a sudden, after a few months, 6 months, 7 months, nothing really changed very much in that period of time, especially in like, medical transition. Maybe my hair was like to here and not like before. But like outside of that, I started getting gendered properly more and more and more with very little changing other than my confidence and what I was wearing around me. I feel like if the more nervous you are and the more like, kind of shy you are, I think that keys people into something's not right here, what's going on. And that makes people more likely to not think that you are the gender that you say you are. But I've noticed with people who are visibly trans, that after a year, 2 years of transition, they just live their truths. they even don't get misgendered that often. So it is a thing that is kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like an aura or something. I know the secular channel, but it's just something that you put off after you've been living your identity openly for a long time, that people will just key into it and not even notice that they're doing it. At least that's my experience as a binary trans woman. And that's what I try to tell people. It's just like, just go out there, just be who you are, and people will get it. People will get it because people don't care enough. It's only like the assholes that are out there looking out the clock trans people and call them out. Most people are just like, whatever you're wearing, sure. Like, that's what it is. It's sad to say, but that's
Right.
what it is. People just are so in themselves, they don't care. They're just walking around and waiting in line for their coffee. They don't care who's behind you or in front of you. Like, when's the last time that you remembered the person's gender, the last time you stood in line for coffee? Like, do you remember
Right.
the
Yeah.
person standing behind you? No. Right? Because you don't think about it that much, right? It's like
Right.
that's how people in society are. And so I think that's the best advice that I can give, because I know from my own personal experience that's how it's been.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that because yeah, even myself, I struggled with that for a bit. But once I just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna just start existing and try not to even like worry about it or think about it. And like, because we started to get a little nervous when our kids started calling us mom and dad in public because we're like, we're being outed by our own little gremlins. But I actually started to. I thought to myself, you know, I should be just completely overjoyed that this human that I created is calling me dad while I'm like at the park.
Yeah.
But instead, I'm
Mhm.
like worried about who's looking at me. And I just kind of
Yeah.
decided, you know, screw it. I'm just going to be so just overjoyed of being a parent. And if someone else is going to make that an issue, we'll deal with that when it happens. But I'm just going to start living in joy. And that really helped me a lot. And I've tried to encourage that with my wife, and she's gotten a little closer, but I know she's still a bit nervous. But very loudly, our children will yell, "Mommy, mommy," and run to her because they love her so much whenever we see her. And I think she's getting a little more and more comfortable each time. But yeah, I told her, I was like, I'm so excited for the day that you get to just fully embrace it and like fully be yourself because you're so beautiful and you're so yourself. And so I'm really excited for when that can happen in public. But right now we are living in a very like rural red area of Washington. So we do get funny looks every time we go to the store and all that kind of stuff. And so it's, you know, it's a little tough sometimes, and she hates being visible at anything, period. So, yeah, we're both very introverted, but both of our kids are extroverted, so they will push us out of our shell at some point.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. Yeah,
If
and
you're
and
able to
have
find
her
more
watch.
trans people locally, that's probably a good call. Like, I know that you
Yeah.
live in a rural area, but if there are other trans people or even other queer people in your area, networking so that you can like bring your kids to hang out together instead of like just being at the park or whatever. And like, obviously, the advice always is move to a more liberal area if you can. Obviously, you have children. It's kind of hard to just do that. But also, the younger they are, the less of a transition it's going to be for them as they have to like change schools and stuff. So, yeah, that's definitely multifaceted systems of advice to approach all these different issues. But do you want to give a final word, Jack, and then we are going to move on to some of our other calls today?
Sure, yeah. I just again would like to thank all of you at the line and you know, especially all of you at Transatlantic because you're my favorite show. Thanks so much for
Yay.
being there for us, for all the advice and really helping us out because obviously for everybody and I'm sure for yourselves too, this is, you know, a difficult time. And so the fact that you were choosing to use your time to help other people is really impactful for all of us. So thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
Awesome. You
Thank
too.
you. You too. Bye bye.
Bye.
Okie dokie. So, lines, I believe, are closed now. We still have 5 callers. We're gonna try to pick up the speed a little bit and try to make sure we get to everybody today, and then make sure we have enough time for super chats at the end. Remember, $5 or more, we will read your super chats. We don't respond to questions just kind of in the chat, because we want to respect our callers' time. So if you have like a pressing thing that you want us to address at the end of the show, you can do a $5 super chat. Also use that opportunity to vote for hashtag Team Lux or hashtag Team Josie. Whoever gets the fewest votes has to do a punishment at the end. So yeah, don't forget to do all those things. Oh, and call in like 2 weeks if you have something like really, really pressing that you need to like speak to us about. Yeah, okay. So let's just review the poll for this week so that we can then put up the poll for the punishments, because I want you guys to get to vote on that. So now we're going to have a little discussion moment. Let me see. What is it in chat? Right now you have 158 votes. You have sort of slim majority. 59% have said that yes, you think that Sarah McBride is making a mistake. We will see next week what the bigger poll shows us. But yeah, sure. Josie, do you want to go first?
You're gonna make me go first. I see how it is. Okay. So the results don't surprise me that we'd see nearly a split. And it is more 60%, which I kind of tend to agree on. It's really hard because Sarah is in a very lose situation. That's what it is. There's really no way she can win on this. If she says yes, then she says that I will follow these rules, then she wins favor in, oh yeah, she's just going to be another wallflower Democrat, and therefore we don't have to focus on kicking her out. If she says no, and also piss off the trans community for doing that, and if she says no, I'm not going to abide, then they start drafting up paperwork of how we get remove Sarah McBride from Congress, and they have a majority, right? So there is that whole thing of like, what is better, that she is defiant and then loses her position as a representative, and then we just lose that person altogether, or saying I'm not going to, fine, I'll follow this stupid rule, but I want to actually try to be a part of this and be a part of the discussion and try to do amendments. This is hard because for me, I'm going in that bathroom. I'm making a show. I'm doing a tweet. I'm freaking skeeting. I'm doing it all. Just like do like I'm. This is so funny, that word. But basically, going in and making a show of it, right? And zoom in here. Okay. And making a show of it and say, hey, this is who I'm going to be. This is who I am, because it's more than just me. It's about the staffers that also have to go to the bathroom that are trans. It's about the visitors that go to the bathroom that are trans. And you have the opportunity to choose your own narrative. So it's hard. Sarah McBride is a very different politician than I would be. She's a little bit more like establishment neighbor of Joe Biden type of Democrat, the one that's very rich and very privileged type of Democrat, that doesn't have to suffer what a lot of the trans community has to suffer with. She's even said it herself that her experience as a trans woman is not that of 99% of the trans community, because she was privileged. She didn't lose a member of her family. She didn't get written out of any wills. She didn't get kicked out of homes. She didn't lose any friends. She stayed wealthy, stayed privileged, and still got into Congress. So that's not the typical trans story. But she acknowledges that, and that's important. But we as activists, we as people who work in this, have to do the work so she can then go into it. That's how it works. We're going to have to do the protest. We're going to have to do the activism so then she can then support it. We cannot expect her to be the lead activist. We have to still be activists. She's a legislator. That's a completely different game. So she has every right to play the game that she wants to play. She's the one that got elected. Would I do it differently? Yes. Would a lot of trans people do it differently? Yes. Would a lot of trans people do it like her? Yes. So it's a divisive issue. And it's a hard one, but we can't expect her to be the lead activist for trans rights. She never has been, so we can't expect her to do it now.
Yeah. I think it's this difficult situation where I want to be like, yay, she won, yay. And then also I'm like, I'm mad at the Republicans for bullying her and she's not even taken her job yet. Like she's not even like, she hasn't like signed the paperwork like that you would when you start a new job and you sign a contract. Like she is not even in her job yet. And we're already dealing with all this. And like I am pretty upset with her response. I think because, and part of the reason why I'm upset with her response is because she's really hammered in. She's like, I'm just here to represent the interests of Delawareans. And it's like, girl, you're in the United States House of Representatives. You're at the federal level. You represent everybody. Like, yes, you do specifically represent the interests of Delaware, but you are the only trans person in this level of position that every trans person in the country is looking to for strength, ultimately, at the end of the day. So for her to, metaphorically roll over and show her belly on this, I can completely understand why that's very upsetting. I find it very upsetting because you would hope that, like, she can say, it's my job and I have to follow the rules. And she can also simultaneously say, this is out of step with the EEOC policies across this entire nation. It is considered like reasonable accommodations to allow trans people to use the bathroom of their target gender. She could point out that like these Republicans who are supporting this measure to prevent her from using the bathroom because of alleged sexual safety of females have full-throatedly supported an alleged rapist and another alleged rapist and another alleged rapist. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like she could have still functionally said, yo, it's my job and I have to follow the rules. And Republicans are using this as a wedge issue to distract from important things like the economy. But that's also tied in with this idea that trans issues are a distraction rather than being like, this is the cornerstone upon which the fascist movement is being built in this nation. We are the scapegoat group. And people looking the other way about us right now are, to my mind, exactly the same as people who looked the other way when disabled people and Jewish people who were like, just disabled people were like the first on the list in like the end of the Weimar Republic, beginning of Nazi Germany. So yeah, it's obviously very disappointing. Obviously, I would have hoped for at least some amount of pushback, at least some amount of calling of the hypocrisy on this. Obviously, she is not trying to lose her job and be censored and then not be allowed to do her job and vote on behalf of Americans. It's like a catch-22 no-win situation where, yeah, like I was like, woo, yay, and then just immediately like, oh, well, okay, cool. She's like another one of those. But she wouldn't have gotten elected if she wasn't another one of those Democrats. So,
It's
keeping
tough.
our reservations. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
No, I think you
if
said
you
it
have
very
more,
well, Lux. I think you
yeah,
said it very well.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you all in the comments here, if you want to get your rants out, as I have just done, go ahead and do that in the comments of the community post so that everybody can see. And yes, of course, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been coming out in support of Sarah McBride and saying like, this is ridiculous. You shouldn't be doing this, yada, yada, everything. AOC, obviously a very different kind of Democrat, much more grassroots, much more working class. So yeah, I'm at least glad that we have one person who's out there going, no, you're not doing this. This is ridiculous. What are you doing? So we've at least got that.
We have to match the energy, right? Like Nancy Mace wants to play like, oh, I want this attention. It's like, well, we need to match that energy, and that's what it is. And I just, it's one of those things. Just like, dang, I wish I won my congressional seat back in the day. Like, just like put me in there, tag me in, coach. Like this is. Like, I'm ready. Let's go.
For sure. Well, with all that said, yes, we do still have, let's see, it looks like 4 callers on the line. So let's try to get through these in the next hour or so that we can get to super chats here at the end. Don't forget $5 or more super chats. Oh, and don't forget to vote. Yeah. So vote with your dollar. You can vote for hashtag Team Lux or hashtag Team Josie, and whoever loses has to do a punishment. And you can vote on the punishment in the poll in the chat right now. The loser has to defend the position of either you can only eat spaghetti with a spoon. The second option is that dragons are more realistic than unicorns, or that you can only have breakfast foods at dinner time. Those are the three things. We have to defend one of these silly positions. You guys get to decide which one we're going to do. So, yeah, with all that ranting over with, I am ready to take the next call.
Let's go.
Yeah, so we have Pip, they, them pronouns from the UK, wants to talk about how we can best look after our mental health during these times. Hello, Pip, you're on with the line.
Hey, Pip, how are you?
Can you hear me okay? Oh,
Yeah.
It's been rough.
Man.
It's been rough, to say the least. I have to admit, the US election honestly hit me far more than the UK election, because as bad as things are over here, relatively speaking, and I know we're not called Turf Island for nothing, I pretty much expected Labour to be the spineless centrists who didn't care about trans rights, because Keir Starmer, the current Labour leader and current, Prime Minister, said as much. But knowing Project 2025 and trying to tell other fellow anarchists, I don't like the state in any respect. I want to, smash it all down as much as you guys, but so long as it's here, we have to work with it. It is exhausting. And to see, that cry, just try and give ourselves breathing room to fall on deaf ears, just becomes utterly overwhelming. And I have to admit, I was on death's door the moment I woke up in the morning and heard that Trump has won. It just came down on me like a ton of bricks. So I wanted to talk about how we can look after our mental health during these times, because I know that when it comes to mental health versus activism, I am very bad at that balance. And I think we all deserve to really think about and consider how we are looking after ourselves mentally when it feels like it's us against the world.
Yeah. I mean, my biggest thing is focusing on things you actually have control over. I mean, it's important to let yourself have this moment where you're like, I feel really bad. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to put that in a compartment where it then bursts out later. So at least taking the time, in the morning when you first wake up and just going like, yes, I'm just going to sit with this feeling. It feels really bad. And then after spending a little bit of time with it, you can go, okay, well, what can I actually do to manage? What is it? Is it your anxiety? Is it your anger? Is it, is it like sadness? Like, what can you physically do actually to tangibly impact that anxiety or whatever? So for me, it's stuff like, yeah, I'm moving to a place where I know is going to be safer. Like, basically the entire west coast of the Californian Republic, all three of these states have basically said that they're going to sue and they're going to fight all these things. And so I'm like, okay, cool. That's my plan. I'm like, what do I have control over today? I have control over my dishes today. If I want to, I can take a little bit of time to contact one of my representatives. Like, obviously for me in Kansas, like I have like Republican representatives for the most part. They don't care what I say, but it's important to still make your voice heard. But yeah, like, what do you actually have control over? Because I think so much of the existential dread from this comes from that feeling of like, well, I voted, I did the thing I was supposed to do. And maybe even you also canvassed, and maybe you called people and texted and you knocked on doors, and we still lost so badly. It wasn't, you can't even just blame this one on the gerrymandering of like the Electoral College and everything, because he won the popular vote as well. So feeling that defeat is because you were trying to do a lot of things and then it didn't work out. So trying to refocus that energy onto like, okay, what do I actually have control over? Like, I can help someone get out of a bad situation, or I can donate this money, or like just taking care of yourself on a basic level. I got my teeth cleaned this week. I found a COVID safe dentist. I got my teeth cleaned outdoors. It was an interesting experience. I'm pretty sure a leaf flew into my mouth at one point. It was windy. So, just doing those basic things of like, take care of yourself, take care of the people closest to you, establish community relationships, make yourself a valued member of your local community so that you can feel assured that if they come knocking on the door, then your neighbors are going to care about what happens to you. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what else to do. That's me just going like, I just got to continue doing things, and the list of things gets longer and longer. I have like a whole list of things that I need to do and I've been putting off, and now I have to move, and so a lot of those things are becoming more pressing. So don't do that to yourself. Don't let all the things stack up. It's another thing. You have to actually do them and not just think about doing them.
Yeah, exactly. I know that I recognize that I am in a relatively privileged position, being someone who is assigned male at birth and largely male passing, and also have good queer communities around me. One of my favorite haunts is the Queer Lit Cafe in Manchester, where it has like a small bar and a bookshop where I go to find queer literature. And that is something that I've been trying to focus on, is that for the past 9 months or so, I've been learning to draw, and I'm also a big fan fiction writer. And so I've been trying to use those platforms to include and help trans people feel seen in that kind of both art and fiction, because already we are seeing big corporations like Disney rushing to censor trans stories if they are too explicit. I don't know if you know the cartoon Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, but that literally had an episode pulled from air because it was explicitly in support of a trans woman competing on a women's sports team. And so feeling like you are up against this huge, soulless corporation who will just as gladly throw you under the bus instead of, when just 5 minutes ago they were, giving you the spotlight, it feels very disheartening. But at the same time, I am doing this as a hobby. I am doing this because I want to. I'm doing this to spite generative AI. And no one can tell me you're not going to fucking do that. I'm going to make trans people be seen. And if, the Labour or whoever doesn't like me doing that, well, tough shit. Because if people want to, donate or commission me for that, whatever, then that's great. But I'm still doing this because I want to. And I will not let trans people be made to disappear, essentially. I won't let them become invisible.
Yeah. And I said this like that first show we had after the election, and I think some people took issue with my saying this, but we need propaganda. Like, just as much as the right wing uses propaganda. It's just like a loaded term, but I'm just using it in a neutral literary sense. Like, you need those little comics that you find in the bathroom, and you need stickers to stick over the Nazi stickers. Like, you do need pro-trans messaging, if y'all don't like the term propaganda. And yeah, I think that is a valuable work. Like, we need artists. That's part of a movement. That's part of a political movement. And artists are being, not actively at this particular moment, but artists could potentially be persecuted, as they have many times in the past. So yeah, making art, telling stories, making sure people feel seen and heard in that art as well. Like, yeah, I do think that has value. And it's a way of you channeling your feelings into both action and expression. I've actually been thinking to myself, like, maybe I should get back into making art, because it's like you need an avenue for your feelings. You can't just work through them all the time, which is, again, I'm terrible at it. I'm just like, I'm that person who's like, I'll deal with you later. And then I'm like, I go to my therapy session and I think, I don't know if I have anything to talk about in therapy. And then the therapy session starts and you're like, oh, I have a lot to say, actually, it turns out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of my problem also, and I will let Josie get in on this because I know I talk a lot, but I think a part of my problem is that the way my autism brain kind of works is that I can get very obsessive. It's very difficult for me not to think about this like direct activism related topic. It's like the old case of don't think of a black cat and you immediately think of a black cat. Every night when I am trying to relax for bed, I am fighting against my own brain to stop going down this, long winding 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon train of thought back to Trump, back to Warren, back to the Republicans, back to the fascists in charge of the US government. And it is so exhausting to be forever trapped in that loop when you just need an out. You need an out to not think about, but also recognizing that I am in a comfortable position enough that I can not think about it. I can go about my daily life and not have to worry about which toilets I'm going to use or if I'm going to get misgendered. I mean, I'm going to get misgendered anyway because I'm non-binary, but that's beside the point. Relatively speaking, I'm in a position where it's not going to affect me as much. And as much as I don't like that, I don't like being in that position where I'm not suffering and others are, I want to try and at least use some of my privilege, however possible, to help those who are suffering.
Yeah, that's the right thing. And Pip, I can totally relate because I am neurodivergent in the autistic spectrum. So me and politics is always on my brain, and it's always doing little dance and merry-go-round in my brain. That's why I can't stop talking about it. Always there, always doing it. But even I had to figure out a way to unplug. And honestly, it was just watching a TV show that was good art. Just something that I can just like unplug. I started a new Baldur's Gate 3 campaign. I was just like, I was like, I love that game. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try to play it on honor mode and just try to get through it. And let my anger get mad at the gnolls trying to eat my face than the actual leopards trying to eat mine. So I think you're doing the right thing, it's hard to care, Pip. It's hard. It is like to care about society is always going to be a mental health dilemma. I sometimes wish that I had the ability to just be oblivious and just go to work and then go home and then, watch TV and then do it again the next day. And that's it. And that's what a lot of people that don't care about politics, that's what they do. And they only care about politics for a few weeks out of every 4 to 2 years or whenever there's an election. And it's very frustrating because we have to put in all the emotional energy for them. But it seems like you're doing the right thing. And I can relate with a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a lot of control over society, unfortunately. As much as I wish to bring, the big anarchist hammer down and just burn the whole thing to the ground, I'm not stupid enough to think that that's going to happen overnight. I know that we need to create a environment of both class consciousness and also a general sense of camaraderie and organization where trans people feel seen, feel represented, and feel heard. And if I can contribute even a little bit to that, that's what I'm going to do. My current project is a small fan fiction which I am basing around the history of the Telford Railway, because when I heard that as part of their 75th anniversary of preservation project, they are making their visitor centre, both LGBTQ and neurodivergent, safe, that is very important to me. I am a massive steam railway nerd, and they are creating a safe space for people I care about in a hobby I care about. And so if I can help raise funds for that, and I can help bring attention to that, then I'm contributing in creating at least some environments where people like yourself, Josie and Lux, can feel safe and that they can enjoy these niche, nerdy hobbies and perhaps even help out with the preservation.
For sure. No, thank you, Pip. We appreciate it. We always appreciate your calls. It's been a long time since I've heard your voice. So thank you for calling in.
I try not to take up too much time because I know I can, like I said, I ramble so much.
It's all right.
once in a while.
Everybody loves you, so thank you for calling in.
No problem. Take care. Bye for now.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Speak to you soon. Bye. Oh, okay. So I don't think we have any more announcements or anything for the rest of the day. Just make sure you get your $5 super chats in if you want us to answer your questions. Get your votes in. I haven't been paying attention so far to who's winning, who's getting the most
Team
votes.
Josie always shows up. Team Josie
It's
shows
true.
up. They do. You know it's true, Lex. Like, even when I'm not in the show, Team Josie
We
gets
still
votes.
we still get like at least one Team Josie, like basically every time you're not here. And don't forget to vote for what you want the punishment to be. The loser has to defend a silly position, and it looks like right now the only eating spaghetti with a spoon is what's winning. So get your votes in on that, and don't forget to hit the like button because we love and appreciate that. All right, we've got 3 callers left. Let's go take Robin from the UK. He, him pronouns, wants to ask a question about could gender nonconforming men make life more difficult for trans women? Robin, you're live on the line. What's up?
Hi there. So,
Hello.
I'll just. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello. Oh,
yes.
There's a delay, a slight delay.
Okay, it's I'm in the UK too, so that might be it. But I'll just get into it. So, just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from, going to be touching on some of that neurodivergence again. So, I'm bi. I have ADHD. I would sort of consider myself neuroqueer, which is a way. It goes beyond just sort of being bi or being neurodivergent, but also thinking about making changes in the world to make the world more accepting of different ways of thinking, different sexualities, different genders, things like that. So it's a big part of sort of how I try to live my life and things. I'm in a fortunate position where I can sort of make positive influences in that area. I work in the NHS as inequalities, which is good. And after the US election, I think it was a bit shock for everyone, and well, not necessarily shock, but definitely makes people think about what the next steps are. And I guess one of the steps that I thought is just about sort of how can you go more to the next level of sort of, I guess part of me wants to make it really clear just how many allies there are for trans people, just how many queer people there are, even if they don't necessarily seem queer on the outset. So, for example, I'm bi, but I'm married to my wife, so oftentimes people won't necessarily know that I'm bi. And something which maybe I've thought of in the past, but haven't always had the confidence to do or wasn't sure about, is sort of dressing more feminine, thinking about sort of those weird barriers around clothing and things that we have, and there's not really any good reason for them. So I guess one of my reactions was that could be a way of sort of increasing the queerness in society. But another part of me is thinking now that, I mean, and it's only just since the election, it's gotten even more in the conversation, is trans people, and especially trans women, getting banned from bathrooms. And a part of me wonders that if I was an openly cis man who was sort of dressing more feminine, being very comfortable in the men's toilets, that's where I'd want to go, could that potentially be used as ammunition with people conflating cross-dressing men with trans women and saying, well, they're all right using the men's, trans women should be all right to use the men's? Does that make sense? I've sort of said a lot.
Yes, it does. No, it makes sense, and it is tricky. And this is where it's really frustrating because it's hard to not let the normative narrative take control over our own queerness, our own presentation, because in reality nobody should care, right? It should be like in reality it's like, who cares if you're going into the men's bathroom feminine presenting because that's the day that you decided to be more feminine, like your gender identity is man, so therefore you're just using the bathroom. It's always about just using the effing bathroom. And it's really frustrating. But I do not think that you and I will just say, it's not like somebody is going to take a picture of you and then make you the poster child for all people to be like, look, here's Robin going to the male bathroom dressed in a dress, so therefore you should too. And so honestly, it's like the situation of you going in the bathroom and being comfortable in whatever presentation should not preclude you from doing such a thing. I do not, as a trans woman, want to be able to tell people who identify as male, don't dress in a dress, please, because I don't want you to go to the bathroom and people to be thinking things, because that makes me no better than the people trying to police me for not going into the bathroom. And there are going to be people who have really bad opinions about things, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, you're ruining it for everybody. It's like, this is part of the fight. Like, we shouldn't in society be policing people's appearance. We shouldn't be policing people's gender identity, and we shouldn't be policing where people feel the most comfortable going to the bathroom. And anybody who would say that to you, Robin, I would be like, well, they're wrong. And as a trans woman, I would defend you and your right to go into the bathroom expressing yourself in any way that you feel comfortable. And because if I were to do the opposite, I would be no better than somebody saying that I can't go into the bathroom because I'm presenting a certain way. I maybe that's lacking nuance, but I would love to hear what Lux has to say.
Yeah, I mean, I understand all of these things. Like you're like, I have an urge to be more openly gender non-conforming or being willing to bend those rules because I want to establish a society where that's normalized. And also, I'm worried that my existence is going to be used as a cudgel against trans women. Obviously, like, that is a valid concern. I think it would be, I was almost anticipating this question just looking at the note from this call screener was like, if gender non-conforming men used the women's restroom, would that cause a problem for trans women? And it's like, well, yeah, obviously that would be playing into the rhetoric of like men just want to use these spaces for funsies. But if you're just like, I'm an openly bi man who likes to paint my fingernails sometimes, like I should be able to use the restroom. I think that kind of ties more into a broader like homophobia problem rather than like directly reflecting on trans people. And you're still going to be at risk of the normal queer phobic violence of just like existing as a man who's doing anything feminine, honestly, is like considered kind of a problem to people. So yeah, I would say if you have the ability to, first of all, express yourself authentically, like if you want to paint your fingernails, then you should do that, so long as it's not like incurring crazy consequences on you, and it shouldn't. It is fairly normalized. I don't know so much in the UK, actually. It's pretty normalized here for people to wear nail polish, even if they otherwise seem like they're male, especially like black nail polish. You might get people assuming that you're into like one of those music subcultures, like punk or metal or whatever. People tend to assume that rather than like, oh, if you have blue fingernail polish, then I'm gonna think maybe you might be one of those F words. But yeah, so much as you can model the world that you want to live in, I think that's probably the better way to go. If we can all the like lefty liberal progressive people, if we can be openly out and safe and representing like the type of society that we want to live in. I want to live in a society where people can wear whatever they want and not get harassed in the bathroom and be able to get married and all this. So the more we model that, I think that represents like a pretty significant, not only pushback against the anti-queer sentiments that are obviously in an upswing right now, but it also models for young people that there is a world they can imagine themselves living in the future, even if the world that they have in front of them is still going to include needing to make safety decisions about what I wear and which bathroom I go to and all this. Like knowing that there are people who are strong enough to stand up to those expectations, and people who are willing to kind of bend or break those rules, and that, you know, the world doesn't come falling down because a feminine man used the bathroom. I think that it's good as much as we can to model that. And if someone bothers you or tries to use you as a cudgel against trans women, you can be like, I'm literally a man. Like, literally, I am a man and I'm using the men's bathroom. I like trans women have nothing to do with me and what I'm doing. And like, those are just going to be ongoing conversations for the next few years. I think a few more years. So I don't know if any of that was helpful.
Yeah, it was really helpful. I think it's definitely more around. So I know Josie was sort of saying about how I've got the right to do this and the right to do that, and I really appreciate that. But also, I guess I felt comfortable that I had the right. It's more about, is this going to potentially be harmful? So it's good to get your guys' opinions on the idea that whatever it is, living most authentic is going to be the most helpful.
It is.
And sort of hopefully that'll helpfully build the world we want to see.
Yeah, we don't want to live in a world where we have to capitulate to Republican arguments. I'm sorry, I said Republican. We're talking UK. We should not live in a world where we have to capitulate to conservative points of view when those arguments haven't been made. I know so many people who live in complete sadness because they don't want to be the one that stands out, because they don't want to provide fodder for some aggressive conservative to be like, oh, you see, it's just not a good world. And so for me, it's like, I always recommend to all of my queer, siblings to just live who you want to live, be who you want to be. Like, I know people who are like, "Oh, I'm going to shut down this pride parade because it may get a little risque." And it's like, that's not, you're don't freaking make the argument and capitulate to something before something even happens. And so for me, it's like, I'd rather you go in there and, like, even if it's 95% of the time, it's always without issue. And then the 5%, there's somebody that's like, oh, you're a trans person that believes in the right way to go to the bathroom. And it's like, I'm not trans. Like, and that's all you got to do is like, I'm not a trans woman. This is just me going to the bathroom. Okay. And so I'd rather that be the case. And I don't want to comply and obey before they've even come after us. Like, I don't want it. I'd rather we live our truths until the end than us say living in a milquetoast world that makes more people quiet and upset. Because I don't want and Robin, I don't want, not you, I don't want to point you, I don't want other people like yourself that are so good assuming, you're assuming such great things, and you are willing to sacrifice something for yourself in order to protect trans women, and I appreciate that. But I don't want my existence as a trans woman to push you into the closet. That's not why I did this as a trans person. And so for me, it's like, I just want you to live your truth because it gives me the ability to live mine, and I don't want my rights to spite yours. And I appreciate the sentiment, but that's the way I'm always going to think about it.
Oh, thank you very much, Josie. It does mean a lot. I mean, we are the LGBT community. We're never going to separate any aspect of that away. So it's lovely. Thank you so much for your kind words, and I really like what you said as well about. I can't remember if she said it exactly, but it made me think: don't do their work for them. Don't concede a point that hasn't been thinged yet. So yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been a very helpful call.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We appreciate you
Thank
calling,
you,
Robin.
Thanks
Let
very
us
much.
know how it goes. Chat soon.
Will do.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Robin.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. We've got 2 more callers, and then we're going to jump into the super chats. Don't forget your $5 super chats or more. We will read them at the end, and you can vote hashtag Team Lux or hashtag Team Josie. The loser has to do a punishment. You can vote on the punishments, blah, blah, blah. You know how it goes. If I know it's late in the show, if you haven't hit the like button, there's still time. There's still time.
There is
We
a
still
lot of
got a
time.
couple. Yeah, we got like probably an hour of this left. So
I would say the time is now.
the
if
time
you
is
haven't
now.
yet.
Yeah.
So do it now.
Do it. Okay. All right. So with that said, the next person up on the queue is Micah from South Africa, uses he, him pronouns, a trans man who wants to get some advice on coming out to an unsupportive family. The note says, grew up Christian with a dad who wrote the book against transgenderism. Micah, tell us about that. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous. Yeah, no, my dad, my parents are missionaries. They've been missionaries my entire life, and my dad wrote a book against gay people and trans people, and I turned out to be both. So
cool.
That's going great, But yeah, no, my dad, he moved away to another country, and now I'm living on my own and everything, and I have the opportunity to like socially transition, with like my friends knowing and some of my family knowing. But I really, I just really want to stop lying to my family. I can't stand lying. And it's really hard to like not lie to my family, but also keep my identity a secret. So I don't know. I just wanted some advice on how to deal with that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're living on your own, I guess that makes it a little easier. Like, because you
Yeah.
don't have to deal with the pressure of like you losing support. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that's another thing. So, like, my education is being paid currently by my parents. So
I would say wait
feel
then.
like,
Yeah, I'm going to strongly assert that you should wait until you're done with your education, or at least like if you get into a position where you can pay for your education. But if your parents are missionaries and like wrote a book on how it's bad, and like being in South Africa too, like I know that South Africa is like not as bad as some other countries, but like I don't know, I would say just don't. And then like in 5 years when you're done with your education, I mean, obviously, it's going to be difficult if you start hormone therapy and then you have to go home for holidays or something. Coming up with some clever explanations for that might be good. And I know that you don't want to lie, but like, if we're being real, lying is sometimes necessary. You can say, "Oh, well, my voice. Oh, I've just been a little bit sick. That's why my voice sounds weird. I've taken up smoking, and that's why my voice sounds weird."
Well, I do smoke, so like that's my voice is like deeper because I smoke. So.
Built-in explanation. Yeah, you're like, I'm up to 2 packs a day, and that's why my voice is dropping
God.
and sounding all gravelly.
No, I hope not. I'm only 21, man. You can't do this to me.
I know.
Oh God.
The stress.
Don't smoke.
It'll get you.
Stop
No, but
smoking.
seriously, yeah.
Yeah. So like I get what you're saying about not wanting to lie, but honestly, it's like I understand the sentiment of wanting to be honest about who you are and wanting to share yourself to your family. I get it. Like, it's like it's hard to not share intimate personal things with your family. It's like we're biologically driven to do that, where it's like I'm going through a hard time. I want to talk to my mom about it. I want to talk to my dad about it, whatever. And it's like we are just like biologically locked to wanting to do that. And I totally get that sentiment. And I will say, like, I waited 2 months after I already started my transition before I told my family, and I was like 34 years old at the time, living across the country, and still was like, I'm not telling them because they're gonna try to talk me out of it, and I don't even want to have that conversation. And so for me it was like hard, and I finally did it, and I'm glad I did, but it still was a hard situation. But I would love to hear what your thoughts are, because I also don't want you to lose your ability to get your education paid for. So what are your thoughts after hearing some of our thoughts?
Well, I think that you're definitely onto something. Like, that's a very good point you both made. Thank you so much for saying that. Just before we continue, what are your guys' pronouns?
Mine are she, her.
I usually use it's.
Okay, cool. So mine are he, him, as you can see on the screen. So I think you guys are onto something about, like keeping it a secret until my education is finished. But I don't know. I feel like, well, I'm getting to a point where I'm able to, like, I have a job, I study as well, so I'm getting to a point where I can pay for my own stuff and whatever. But and to be honest, I'm not really that close with my parents. Like, long story short, my brother has autism, and I was kind of like emotionally neglected from that time. So I'm not really close with them. I don't really share things with them. But it's something that, like, I want them to know about, because I don't want them to think that, like, I pander to whatever they say. I want them to know that I'm a person with my own identity, with my own ideas, and with my own views on life. And yeah, basically that.
Yeah, I kind of understand that. It's definitely part of that, like, those final years as a teen, and then, like, as you move into your 20s, that, like, desire to assert yourself as being different from your parents. That sometimes we even see in the US, like, children of Democratic parents swinging hard into Republicanism as soon as they move out, because they're like, I want to assert myself and I'm not like my parents and everything. So like, it's
Yeah.
a very normal part of growing up. I would just say, like, if you're willing to potentially deal with the fallout of, like, not having your education paid for, like, I just think maybe it's different in South Africa, but in the US, having someone else pay for your education, like, of course you potentially could afford it otherwise, but for us, at least, it's like that'll set you back by, like,
Well,
10
let
years
me
in your life progress.
let me tell you that, like, in South Africa, I don't know what is the minimum wage in America at the moment?
$7.25.
Yeah.
Still.
Well, guess what it is here. It's only 25 rand.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't,
not sure
I
how that
don't know
translates.
That's like less than $1.
Oh, okay.
Or like at
Oh,
least,
okay.
or like a little over $1. And just to let you know, like, rent here is around at minimum 8K a month. So a
Okay.
lot of people, they can't afford rent. They can't. Yeah, it's a whole thing. But I'm fortunate enough that I have a job that's online. I'm an online English teacher, so I earn in, like, RMB and UN. So I'm able to, like, pay for myself. Education, not really, but I just want to get to a point where, like, my parents can respect me, I can respect them, even though they believe different things from me, and so on and so forth. And, like, I'm just hoping that, if I do tell them, that they react like adults and not like, like parents do. But I guess, you can't really change that.
You can't choose it, and it's always going to be difficult. Like, I have a very transphobic biological father, and he's completely disowned me. I haven't talked to him, and I've been
I'm so
out now
sorry.
for almost 5 years. Yeah, and it's fine. He's an asshole. He's a jerk. I didn't like him anyway. But at the end of the day, it's like you can't choose the reaction that your family has, and you don't know what it's going to be like. And so I hope, when you do come out to them, that they're able to say, I respect you, I still love you, but that is never guaranteed. Especially if someone that has authored a book about it, it's like even harder to think that they would be able to do that, is one of those things. So yeah, I don't want. I want you to go into this clear-eyed, knowing that the worst case scenario is they never want to see you again and cut you off from everything. And or if it's not, and they're like, no, I still love you. It doesn't matter. Maybe my views are wrong. Then great. It's like a bonus. It's like a bonus.
Well,
But
I mean,
it's hard.
Well, sorry. Do you mind if I say something?
Go for it, please.
So I just for more context, not only did my dad write a book, he's also a preacher, and he also has a Facebook page with over 70,000 followers that talks about like trans issues, but like transphobic, homophobic, very Islamophobic, very like anti-non-Christian. And I did I had a really tough conversation with them a few months ago where I said, like, listen, I don't believe in the faith anymore. I haven't believed for a while. And my parents, like, they threatened, they were like, listen, we paid for school fees, you have to listen to us. But I stood my ground and I said, no, this is my life, and I can't be what you want me to be. I am me. I am in charge of my life. And they also go according to, like, whatever is not from God is evil, and whatever is from God is good. And yeah, it's just very, very complicated with them. But I just hope that one day they can understand that I'm an individual.
Yeah. And know this, sometimes it takes a long time, right? I know sometimes, like, when I first came out, it was really hard with my family. I didn't talk to them for about a year, and then I finally came around to it. My biological father never, but my mother, it took her a minute to finally come around to it. But some families take 2, 3 years, 4 years before they come around to it, because it's like, I miss you and I miss having my child, and they will come around to it. And sometimes they don't. And so there is the ability to say, I'm going to tell you this, and they're going to be like, okay, I don't want to talk to you for a while, and then they'll come around to it. But that's, again, not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed.
Well, I mean, I remember the first time I cut my hair short and I walked into the house, and then my dad, he looked at me with like disgust, and then he walked upstairs, and I didn't talk to him for like the rest of the day. He just refused to speak to me. So he's also undiagnosed, but there's a lot of baggage, as you can see. I'm coming in with the full, like, we're at the baggage claim right now. I'm just bringing things out on the conveyor belt. Anyways, but my dad, he's bipolar, preacher, so there's just a lot of issues. I think the main problem is my dad. It's not Christianity, because I know there are like good Christians out there who are not transphobic and not homophobic and actually believe in women's rights and whatever. But unfortunately, my dad is like far gone off the scale, off the spectrum. So yeah.
I want to bring a slight recontextualization to this conversation, which is going to be a little bit more serious probably than people are wanting to hear right now. But like Josie said, the worst case scenario is that they cut you off completely. If we're being real, the worst case scenario is violent retaliation. And I think when you're dealing with someone who is obviously like basically a Christian nationalist and very against this, and also has like mental health issues on top of all of that. Like there was this trans woman, Eden, who like Trans Day of Remembrance, I guess let's talk about a dead trans woman, but like she was forcibly made to go back to her home country after having lived in America for a period of time. She was stripped of her hormones. She was being searched and her privacy was being invaded by her parents when they got her home, and then she killed herself. Like the thing that you're up against is not necessarily like just never talking to your parents again. So with all of the baggage, as you say, coming into the situation, like I would say you need to feel very confident that you are completely set up to be somewhere else permanently and safe from your parents if it were to become like a more serious situation. Like maybe they try to force you to marry someone or they try to keep you from leaving the house or something. Like I just want to make sure that we're keeping in mind that the particular environment around trans issues right now is extremely toxic, and that it's not just you not being able to pay for your education that's on the line. It's not just you not being able to talk to your siblings anymore or whatever. Like the consequences could be more dire. So always keep in mind that you're juggling like a very real tangible safety like portion of this whole thing that I think sometimes we feel like overconfident that things are going to turn out okay, or they're going to see me as who I am, or they're going to respect me because I'm an adult now. They're going to continue to see you as a child. They may continue to see you as their possession, particularly because you were assigned female. And like, I don't know what the specific Christian culture is there, but like that is part of the thinking, is that like you belong to your parents until you get married off. And they feel like a sense of entitlement over female bodies and people who are assigned female. So I would just say take everything into consideration. And if what you want is their acceptance, that is probably statistically not what you're going to get from them. If you want to stick it to them and be like, I'm my own person and you don't have any control over me, like be prepared to physically be somewhere else in case things go much worse than you would anticipate it to go. Yeah.
I'm fortunate in that, like, so I live in South Africa, but my parents, they immigrated to Canada like 3 years ago.
Okay.
So like all of the stuff that like I told them about, like, you know, like not being Christian and everything, and it all happened over text, not like over a phone call in person. So if I were to tell them like that I was trans, they couldn't really do anything about it. I'd probably get like, you know, not ghosted, like they wouldn't talk to me for a bit, which I'm kind of used to. But yeah, I mean, I guess it would still hurt a lot, but it's almost, for me, it's like ripping off the Band-Aid. Like since I was 16 years old, I've had like, you know, I've always thought like, you know, my parents are probably going to reject me. They're probably going to like, you know, pray, like force me to go to Bible studies, force me to go to church, do all sorts of things. So like I've been preparing for this for a while, but it is kind of difficult nowadays, I guess, because like now that I'm out of the house and now that like I'm far away from them, I talk to my mom more, and she's like we have a better relationship. But like I don't know, I just I don't want to just like tiptoe and pander and like, you know, not say anything when something very wrong is being said.
Yeah, I completely understand. If you're away from home and like, if you don't think that they're going to suddenly move back to South Africa in order to exert control over you, because I would not put it past some people to do that. Like, oh, well, our kid's acting up. We got to pack it up and go home now. Get them back on the right track or whatever. If you feel like you're relatively safe, if you feel like there's not going to be huge consequences, then I would say, you know, just, don't make it like the central conversation at Christmas or something, you know, like maybe don't use that.
No.
But if you want to text your mom and be like, hey mom, I want to tell you something that like maybe I'm not ready to tell dad about yet, I think that could probably be a reasonable first step in.
Oh, but you know, like the Christian culture, you know, I mean, at least in my in my parents' household, like if I tell my mom something, she will keep it to herself for maybe like a day, and then it will like the guilt will eat her, and then she has to tell my dad.
Yeah, the Christian guilt.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. But thank you so much for talking to me. I really appreciate it. I've been wanting to talk to you guys for like 4 weeks now, so I'm glad I'm here on the show.
Yeah,
me too.
Glad you got in.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope you
Micah.
guys have a great day or evening or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Time zones. What even are they?
All right, thank you. Bye.
Good night, Micah.
Bye.
All right. So I find those conversations like really kind of harrowing, actually. I'm like,
hard,
you're like
yeah.
in a different country and I don't know what the culture is like there. And you hear a lot of bad things about various African countries when it comes to how they respond to gay and trans people. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, I hope things go well. At least your family lives in Canada and you don't have to like worry about them directly.
Yeah.
Gosh.
That's hard.
Harrowing. Yeah. Being a young
it really
adult.
is.
Okay, so we have one caller left. Still on, they're still waiting, and then we're gonna get on to super chats. So don't forget your $5 super chats. Vote Team Josie or Team Lux to establish who is dominant today.
Yeah.
Yas, Queen. I don't know.
Let's do it. Let's
We're getting
go.
to the time of day where my Ritalin has officially worn
really
off,
is.
and I'm just like saying goofy things.
Yeah, and I'm feeling the migraine come, and I'm just like, oh no. It's like,
You need the blue light
it's gonna
filter
hit.
glasses.
I know. They do filter a little bit, but not enough.
Yeah, I
It's
feel you
okay.
on that.
I've been feeling this one is gonna be. I like it's in those mornings you wake up and you're just like, oh no, I'm gonna have a bad migraine later today. That's how I woke up today. So
I don't normally
it's
get that much
one of those
warning.
things.
I get like maybe 5 minutes of warning, and then it's like, now we have a
Oh.
problem.
No, mine is just like a slow creeping of like this claw of just pain, just like slowly comes in and just like grabs my brain and squeezes slowly until I can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, migraines. We love being human beings encased in a meat suit. Anyway, we have one final caller. Alex has called before, uses she, her pronouns from Ohio, called us before about coming out to family and is now updating us on how it went. Alex, you're on the line. How's it going?
I'm doing good, except for today's the first day of 30 degrees and snowing here, and it's awful.
Yeah, yay winter,
wow.
yay.
Yeah, a lot of people just took it's not like there's a lot, but there's enough that me and my wife both took a snow day. We're like, yeah, let's not just do work things. Let's just stay in. It's cold. It's gross.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
cool.
for sure.
Well,
So,
give us the update. What's going on?
How did it go?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember. I called back in July, specifically actually to both of you. So I was really excited when I heard last week that both of you would be hosting because I was like, oh yeah, I actually get to tell them. So yeah, I say we because my wife was there for the whole thing, but we came out and we did it in parts. So the first, I'll just try and summarize because I know like I'm last caller and we're trying to wrap up, but my parents were very quiet. There's a little bit of sobbing, and then kind of how I thought it was gonna go. We kind of just went back to talking very surface level things. I'm still kind of worried about them because there was also just tons of dead naming right afterwards, but it had only been like an hour, so I wasn't going to push anything that day. When I came out to my sister, I just did it over the phone. She believes that she's psychic. I say it's just really good intuition, but she was just like, yeah, I kind of figured that. So with her, we're starting on a point where like gender and sex are still kind of the same thing in her brain. So she said, you're actually never gonna be a full woman because your chromosomes and whatnot. And I was like, well, you don't even know what my chromosomes are, and that's why we have descriptors of trans woman. It's fine. But she said, like whatever name, whatever pronouns, I do not care. I'll call you whatever. So she's, doesn't really matter or care about the whole situation, I guess, and is cool with it. Then we came out to my in-laws, and we started at a point of my father-in-law, who has always been kind of the one that we knew was going to be the most negative about it. Starting out with, I'm not going to say any of that shit. Like, I'm not going to tell you what your name is or whatever, or use pronouns. But my mother-in-law was very inquisitive, and in a good way, of just asking very reasonable questions and trying to figure it out. And she's always been very submissive to my father-in-law. And so even at one point she was like, shut up, I just want to hear like what's going on, which was amazing, because it was like, oh my gosh, you grew a backbone for a split second. That was amazing to see. And so we got to the point of my father-in-law saying, I'll use the name Alex, but I'm not going to use pronouns. And I was like, okay, good luck with that. Can't wait to see how that goes. And my mother-in-law actually being supportive, and then came out to my brother-in-law and his wife. They have 4 nephews, so we said, like, hey, can we get the nephews away? Because, again, I want them to broach the situation with their kids the way that they kind of want to. And so, again, it was very, there's always, it's always going to be shock and awe kind of thing, because I'm 38. No one kind of saw this coming, apparently, except for my sister. So they were, again, like inquisitive and talking, but all kind of, in shock and surprise about it. And now, so that was, I don't know, a week or 2 ago. Haven't talked to my dad at all, but it's also not unusual for us to not talk for a little while. I've talked to my mom, but she hasn't really said anything one way or the other. Again, it's surface level stuff. And then my wife got to talk to her parents, and her mom, like, now dropped off the fence and is not cool with it. But is, like, still trying to figure out something. And then I talked to my brother-in-law yesterday on a phone call, and he said it'd be better just not to go to Thanksgiving because everyone's trying to process it. But he did say, we still want you in our lives. It's just a lot right before the holidays, and they're also hosting it. So I'm hopefully trying to give him the benefit of the doubt of we're getting through it. It's just with hosting and having, 4 boys from 16 to 10 years old running around, and the rest of the family and all of that on top of trying to be respectful to me would be just too much. So I don't know. I'm trying to be both stern and have conviction of, like, this is who I am, deal with it or don't. But I also want to be very olive branchy because all these people are hyper religious and they think it's some sort of crazy sin, and it goes against what they believe. And so I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out where, like the grace for them goes, and then where I do say, like, nope, we're done with this. This is not cool. But yeah, there's the very, very short version of it. Obviously, all of those conversations were hours long. But I just want to hear both y'all's take on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think Josie has a lot of experience coming out with family, so I'll let her have the bulk of this reaction time. But like,
Sure.
I would say give him like at least Christmas. It definitely does not feel good to be like, hey, I would rather you not show up to Thanksgiving because this is kind of a lot right now. I like on one level, I kind of understand where your brother-in-law's coming from. On the other hand, it's like really like my gender shouldn't be a focal point of Thanksgiving anyway. It's not like you're
But
gonna.
it would.
I mean, yeah, I feel like you're not going to tear the house down if somebody misgenders you at Thanksgiving. You know, it's only been a couple of months or whatever since. I mean, you called us last in July. I don't know how long this process has been going on for this whole thing, but I feel like by Christmas, people should be fairly well adjusted to it. But even then, like with Josie's family, it took several years for, and like some of them didn't come around. So it's like you give them like at least a couple of years, make sure that you have a good Thanksgiving regardless, and make sure that you have like backup Christmas plans just in case, because like, I mean, you only have like 20 to 30 more Thanksgivings left in your life. And so it's like, how many of those do you want to spend being like upset with your family versus like, you know, I know you have your own family unit, you like your wife, you can do stuff at home for Thanksgiving or do a Friendsgiving, whatever. But yeah, I would say don't feel too upset that people are adjusting and still kind of figuring out how they're going to respond at this time. Like I would personally probably feel a little bit put off by the brother-in-law being like, I don't want you to come to Thanksgiving because your gender is too much to deal with while I also have to cook dinner. I don't know. But I would say give it at least until Christmas before you start being like, guys, you can't not invite me to like family events. You know, like this is not sustainable. I'm not cool with this.
Yeah. And I just want to jump in about this. Your brother-in-law probably isn't the person that gets to disinvite you to Thanksgiving. First off, it needs to be like a situation like your brother-in-law can say whatever the hell he wants, but in reality, it's not his decision. So like if you say, well, I hear you, brother-in-law, but mother-in-law says it's fine, so I'm going to use that because she wants to be there. If you don't want to engage with me, fine. I know I had a shitty
I don't
brother-in-law
think
for a
he
while.
wants to be a part of it either at this point. I think it was
If he doesn't want to show up, that's his choice.
It's the brother is hosting. It's like his house.
Yeah.
The brother is hosting?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the mother-in-law is now like backsliding on her acceptance and is not having as
Sorry,
good a
I
time.
missed that. My niece came in at a portion of that conversation. My niece came in and I like gave her a hug and then I was like, I'm on a show. I'll see you in a second. Anyways, I know, yeah, you know, it's my niece. She only knows me as Josie because I came out at 34 years old, and you know, she was too little to remember me, so I'm always Josie to her. But so, yeah, it's great. So if he has the ability to disinvite you from Thanksgiving, and then you just say, yeah, I can't go to Thanksgiving because I'm trans, just tell your family. And then it's gonna feel really empty, like that you're not gonna be there because of his fifis, and it's going to not look good on that. So I will say, as somebody who came out at 34 years old, it was really hard. It took me probably about 2-3 years before I felt much more comfortable in my family's home, and I'm in my family's home right now. Right, I'm in Texas right now at my family's house, and it's great and it's wonderful. But it didn't used to be that way. And I'm trying to be like quiet because I don't want to be echoed. But you know, anyways, one thing that also helps as well, when you think about this is, I wanted to ask you, are you pursuing medical transition?
Yeah, so I've been on HRT for a year and a half right now. And we're looking into facial feminization and bottom surgery, but that's
Sure.
It's a lot of insurance and in-network, out-network, and it's a nightmare because I don't understand any of it. And yeah, it's very rough at this point. But yeah, we're hoping that next year both of those will happen.
Okay, well, good luck with that. Thank you for sharing.
Thank
You didn't need
you.
to share that much, but thank you. And
I'm so used to answering questions, trying to get my family on board right now. You could just about ask me anything.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I will say this, since you did just recently come out to them, they are still going to get used to seeing you in feminine presentation. And then over time, as you show up in feminine presentation, how you show up in the way that you show up, sometimes that also is easier. I hate to say it, I wish, because it's not easier for non-binary folks. For the particular case, but for binary trans folks, sometimes that does like smoothing sometimes because it's easier for them to understand. Because like for me, it's like my mom sees me as very feminine now, so for her it doesn't make sense that she would call me a boy at this point. And so that's her reasoning, and it's not a good one, because I wish it wasn't that way. But it is something that may happen with your family as well over time. And it depends on how much patience you're willing to give. And I think Lux is right. Like, maybe if you have the ability to host Thanksgiving, host the next one, and see if people come, right, and in that way, right. I think that's something that you can think about, to take a little bit more agency on that, because I think that is probably the most important thing for you, is to be able to spend time with your family as yourself, because it's still new to them. I know, because I'm 38 right now, and I started at 34. It took a minute for my family to get used to it because they knew me as somebody different for so long. And after now 38 years old, now it's like it's fine. Nobody, them or my family's pretty good, except for my biological father and that side of the families, but screw them, we don't talk about them. But but other than that, the family that I do love and care about, they're fine and great, and I'm here for Thanksgiving as we speak. And so it's going to take time. It's going to take growth. You'll see how people come out as themselves and how they treat you as a good indicator of who you can trust in your family. If your brother-in-law never comes into it, well, he just lost out of a great sister-in-law. And that's what I say to people. Is like, I don't know, my biological dad doesn't want to know me. Well, I think I'm pretty great. It's his loss. And so those are things that I help myself understand, so I can continue to move forward in my life and be my authentic self. But I will tell you this: the hard part's already done. You did the hard part. You had the conversations, and you didn't even owe them that, but you did, and you gave them the explanations. You had the conversations. You gave why you did it, and that's because they're family and they mean something to you. So they were able to get those intimate conversations, and that is a gift that you gave to them. And now we will see what happens in the next few months. And I hope the best, Alex. I really do. And it sounds like there were some bright spots there, like your sister, even though she may have an ideological misunderstanding about gender and sex. Have her call in the show. And we can have a conversation about what that means. But other than that, like, it seems like there's still love there, right? And there's still love in a lot of the conversations that you had. It's just their misunderstanding of what's going on with you as being a trans person. And you're in Ohio, I'm in Texas. There isn't a lot of education for cis people who don't care about trans issues about this.
Right.
So you are it. You are it. And your truth is going to educate them.
My worriment is, we got the whole, well, we'll always love you, but I don't know if their definition of love also, encompasses respect. And like, that's my worriment of, they're just gonna be like, well, yeah, we still love you, and be like, then just use my name. It's not like, to me, and I'm trying to come at this from their point of view, but like, it's a little bit harder since I've been out for so long to a lot of my friends and other parts of my family, like my wife and whatnot. But like, and I don't know. It's just a lot more difficult for some reason, which is really, really shitty. But like, it's so much difficult for Christians to deal with this than like non-Christians, because there's so many people that I've also known forever. Like one of my best friends, I've known him since 5th grade, and like he was just like, oh, okay, cool, that's fine. And then that was it. That was the end of it. He told his kid. His kid was totally fine. She now calls me Alex all the time, and it's not like there's any problem at their house. And then we've told extended family who's not religious, and they're like, sweet, awesome. If you need like more of a safe area during the holidays, like we'll help you out. And it's just, it's so disappointing, but also shows me exactly why I got out of Christianity, I guess. Is because like it's just so sad to be like, oh my gosh, you really are bad at being loving towards other people, even though it's kind of the whole point of your religion.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. Well, Alex, I think I'm hoping the best. I think that over time, it's like, for some reason, some family members want to see you commit to the bit, right? They're just like, all right, if this is who you're going to be, sure. And then you keep showing up and you keep showing up and you keep showing up who you are, and you show who you are, they'll just have to accept it or lose you. And that is going to be the stark reality of what they're going to have to face. And the people who say, I still love you, will make that choice. Even if right now it sounds hollow.
Yeah.
And you'll see over time, as you continue to show up as you are, that's what's going to end up showing the truth. Because right now it's just like, oh, this is what Alex said. Okay, we'll see. Because they still don't know how your friends know you. They still have this image that is still tangential to the person that they remember. So the new person that you are hasn't emerged yet, because they haven't had the opportunity to be fully introduced. And I know I'm giving them a lot of grace, and I'm giving them a lot of more grace than they deserve. But it's about how much you care about holding these relationships, and this is the way you have to look at it. If you care about these relationships, you have to remember that they remember you as someone different, and their view of you will always be within proximity to that until they no longer remember that person before. And that's kind of what has happened to my family.
Yep. And yeah, I don't know. I'm trying not to be just resentful about the whole thing, or like too snappy about it. But I mean, there's other parts of me that are just like, it was so easy for so many people to get on board. Like literally, our roommate was walking up the stairs to his room. I told him, I came out to him, and he's like, oh, okay, cool. So have you watched that new like mecha anime? Because robots are freaking sweet. And like, that was it.
Yeah.
And there was no problems after that. So it's like, for me, and again, I've been in it for a while. So like, for me and what I've seen from a lot of people, it's no big deal, which it really shouldn't be. But to them it is, and so I'm really trying to give them a lot more leeway. But like, it's hard seeing how
Go ahead and do that in
easy
the
and
comments.
accepting it was for other people.
I think it's always harder with family. Like, I think that it's always going to feel frustrating that, oh, well, my friends didn't have a hard time with this, but also your friends are not invested in who you are in the same way. Like, your parents have this vision from the time that you're born of what life you're going to live, and they have this idea of like, I see them growing up this way, and I have all these memories, and especially when you're coming out in your 30s, like, there's so much of that. And like, yeah, your family, like how each individual member of your family feels is somewhat tied into you as a person. Like, your identities are intertwined. So for them, they are also having to update their personal identities of like, my kid is trans. I am the parent of a trans person or otherwise related. So like, giving them time to kind of update their sense of self is, I think, something that we don't really talk about that much. And it's completely understandable because it's not about them ultimately. But when it comes
Right.
to a trans person navigating this with your family, it is about them. Like, we do have to take into consideration the wide range of factors that are leading to the reaction that they are having right now. So as difficult as it is, I think that the best thing to do is let it breathe. Like, you've come out, you're doing your thing, give it a little air, just kind of let it ruminate for a little while and continue to make your plans. Like, if you offer like, hey, what if I host Thanksgiving next year? If you guys have the space, I know, like, whatever. Or if you host it somewhere else and you're like, I'm going to make Thanksgiving dinner next year at my parents' house. Because I think you live like right across the street from your parents or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember the conversation. Haha,
You
ADHD strikes
do.
again.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
So just make it clear that like, you still love your family. You're still going to be present in your family, or at least you still intend to be present in your family. And just like, yeah, as frustrating as it is, I think that
Yeah.
the best thing to do here is give it a little breathing room.
Mm-hmm. Which
So give
we
us an
still
update
might
after.
do. Yeah, we still might do Thanksgiving with my parents and my sister. We're waiting
Hey, there's something.
today to hear back. We'll see. But yeah, like,
Good luck with that.
I don't know. And that was the other thing is that I was thinking like on what you said, Lux, of like, I just need, even if it's kind of tough, as like, to just be around them and to show them, like, because I think also with how either they perceive things or how the media perceive things for them, they just think like that's going to be the only topic all the time. The people who make their whole identity being trans, and I'm like, no, my whole identity is a very small part, actually. So once they see that I'm still me and it's just normal conversations as usual, I just look a little different, and you just need to, update 3 words in your language towards me, that maybe it'll be like, oh wow, this really isn't that bad.
That's
For
my
sure.
hope too. Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed for you.
I'll give you guys a call after the holidays and let you know
Yeah,
how
please
everything's
do.
going. Just every 3 months kind of thing.
Yeah, there we go. I am interested because I think it's also helpful for all other viewers to see it happen in real time. It is one thing for me to explain it or Lux to explain the dynamic of family and how acceptance works and how it takes time to cook. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And I wish the best.
Best of luck to whoever has to argue to eat spaghetti with a spoon, because it looks like that's the one winning. So have fun with that.
Yeah,
for sure.
that's why you got to vote
thanks,
for
Alex,
Team
for
Josie.
keeping us updated. No.
Thank you both.
All right,
Appreciate
Alex.
it.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Happy holidays, all that jazz. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. So I want to try to get through these super chats. I want to try to get through them
Let's do it.
fast.
Me too.
Yes.
Me too.
Let's go.
Yes.
All right. $4.99 from Rainbow Wolf. Thank you very much. Says, hey Gates, I heard you like him young. Why hide that report from everyone? To any chicks in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from him. True. Matt Gates,
True.
he has withdrawn from the running for
He
Attorney
has
General.
withdrawn.
Thank God.
That's
Thank
one win
goodness.
on the board.
Release the report.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Release it anyway.
Oh, weird. They sent this one twice. I was like, it's not updating 'cause it's the same one, but
Oh,
okay.
thank you
Well,
again.
thank you.
Sorry for the double charge.
$10. Yeah, $10 from Skip Todius. Starting something next week I'm calling Transgiving. Just one entire week of giving back to trans community in any way we can. Donation, shout outs, buying from trans-owned businesses. Hashtag Team Josie. I'll take the first point on the board. Team
That's a
Josie
cool
always
idea.
showing up. And it is
True.
a cool idea. I'm like, Josie.
I know. So self-obsessed. God. Just like
So
a typical
much.
woman. Anyway.
It's not my fault I'm popular.
It's true. It's true. Yep. All right. £5 from Darren Lacey. Thank you very much. Says, last time I had to super chat twice because my first contained a typo. I hope this one contains no mistakes. No. Cringe.
£5 from Darren Lacey. Damn it.
Shucks.
That's it. Yeah.
$5 from Alia Shauna Silverbow says, why do cows have hooves instead
There's
of feet?
my mom.
Hey.
My loving mom. Here she is. You just said
Success
hi to
story.
about 1,000 people. She's like, what?
Ha.
$5 from Alishana Silverbow. Why do cows have hooves instead of feet? Because they lactose. Hashtag animal jokes in honor of of the animal's head behind Josie. Yes, in honor. Hashtag keeping my promise. Hashtag Team Josie. I remember. Thank you for keeping your promise. I love you.
£20 from Jackie Greenland says, I'm seeing a narrative that Sarah McBride should not have said she'll abide by the bathroom rules. I think this is a bad take as she can do more inside the house, not being censored. Wonder what your thoughts are. Hashtag Team Josie. Yeah, we talked about this, about the poll question. We went in depth earlier in the stream, but TLDR, we're disappointed. And also she couldn't really have done much different.
Yeah, exactly. But that's right. $9.99 from Louise Richardson. Sarah McBride got a lot of flack for not being militant in the face of transphobes in Congress, disrespecting her identity, but I think her gentle persuasion will show them who is the better human. Yeah, I mean, she has the right to run her office the way that she wants to run it. And, we will see, since she's the first one doing it, we've never had anybody do it. We'll see how things go. But I'm hoping the best. I think that, but like I said, if it were me,
I think being gentle in the face of like literal fascism is it's a you're gonna get killed kind of approach. But that's just me. Maybe they will like to rub her soft belly that she has exposed for them, like a good puppy. Anyway, that's somebody's kink. I've just given into somebody's kink. Anyway, let's move on. $4.99 from Robin Uchiha says, what are the odds Trump passes a national ban on hormones in general for adults? I'm hoping I can stockpile enough by cutting doses to last. Very unlikely that they will get it passed in the first place. If they do, it will immediately have an injunction on it because there's like 5 or 6 states that are going to straight up sue the federal government. So unlikely.
Yeah, it's more likely that people who receive it through Medicare and veteran care to lose it than the
and honestly, it's most likely that you'll be impacted by supply chain shortages. So I would say stocking up is not a bad idea, but mostly because of like, the facilities on the coast getting destroyed, and now there's a shortage of like IV fluids because of climate change. So yeah. $10 from Aubrey says, where do trans rights come from? Are they granted, asserted, what? I guess this is a general question for legal and human rights, but I've been thinking about this a lot. Hashtag Team Lux, my first vote. Thank you. I mean, yeah. Rights are granted by governments, basically. Long story short. They don't really exist outside the construct of a government.
That's true. $5 from Alishana Silverbow. What did the pony say when he had a sore throat? Do you have any water? I'm a little hoarse. Hashtag be or not to be a horse, sir. Wait, horse? It's horse rider. That's it. That is equestrian. Hashtag team caballero. Let's
You got
go.
2 in there. That was fun.
I know. That was fun.
$5 from @Furious News says, Credo, you make me laugh. Take my money. Clinking of beers. Clinking of beers.
Yes.
Thank you.
$5 from Credo Mott. I'm obligated to match Furry's 5 now. Hashtag Team Lux.
It's not looking too good for me right out the gate, but we'll see. Sometimes the loser catches up a little bit.
It's true. $5 from Zurith Moonpaw. This is my only super as I'm not poor blue unicorn from Equestria. Hashtag Team Josie. Hashtag Trans Night. Aw.
Nice. $10 from Larry Fishman, who did say their name last time, and I don't remember what it was. Anyway, Kamala lost because 1, Americans are too lazy to Google what a tariff is. 2, she ran a center-right campaign going after voters who don't exist. And 3, boomers won't vote for a woman. Couldn't have said it better myself.
I mean, yeah, it's sad. Just sad. Yeah. $10 from Jax Tikabe. Hashtag Team Lux. Look at you. I feel like hashtag Team Lux is a sleeper, but Josie's always gonna come through.
Yep. Well, let's see. You still got time to get those votes in, y'all. $10 from SJL says, do you think Gavin Newsom would have had a better chance in the election? I know that sounds sexist and maybe racist, but I think we still are as a country. Hashtag Team Josie. I mean, it's like, would any white male have done better? Probably. I don't know, man. Like
maybe.
Probably.
I don't know. Maybe, but again, it's because there was only 107 days to campaign because Biden didn't drop out sooner.
Had primary, like it would be different. Yeah.
If there was a primary and Gavin Newsom won it, that would have been it. So he probably would have done better if that was the case. But I don't think anybody would have done better than Harris given the 107 days. Yeah, it was bad. 1999 from JW Edgy. Chase. Oh, hi, Chase. Thanks for calling in today. Thanks for taking the call. Josie, would you recommend any extra classes I should take? Also, would LGBTQ sticker on my sticker be a poor decision on the van when traveling red states? Thanks, and have a wonderful day. Again, maybe it depends. I haven't heard about people getting. When I was wearing a Bernie sticker during the election, I remember coming through and somebody randomly at a gas pump in Texas was like, "You should probably take that sticker off your car because you here in Texas." I was like, "What are you?" And I literally said, "Are you trying to say that Texans are violent and don't believe in free speech?" And he was like, and it was just like, oh, he completely was like, well, maybe not, but still, I don't think it's. And I was like, because you think it's dangerous to be here, like, and he's like, no, Texas is great. I was like, oh, okay, then I'll leave it then. But classes to take. Classes that I love, modern political thought was my favorite class. It's where I learned a lot about like the philosophers that a lot of the founding fathers used to help form our government. I think that was a great class. I also recommend like international relations class, especially in the Middle East. I took a Middle Eastern government class, which was very insightful and helped me formulate a lot of the arguments in foreign policy now. And I also took a global terrorism course that was really great. And it really helped me understand how people join terrorist movements and gave me a better definition of what a terrorist and who a terrorist is. And I also had a great professor that had that happen. But now I'm just like living off my like my degree and like how many great classes I took. I really college isn't for everyone, but if you do go to college, go and take a bunch of classes that you want to learn, so that way it's more fun for you. Like, really get a degree in something that you want. I know a lot of people try to talk about, oh, you should get an engineering degree because it makes more money. Well, if you don't like the classes, you're gonna have a miserable time and you may even fail. Like, so if you're taking political science, like, check out the school and what their emphasis is and things like that. But I can talk about college and university all day. I'm a big fan of college, but I'm also a college type. Not everybody's a college type, and that's okay.
$10 from Nadia Yvette Chambers. Thank you. All Red Democrat in Texas and Brown Democrat Ohio more ran anti-trans campaigns. McBride has a private loo and threw every trans Dem staffer and visitor under the bus. Blue states aren't safe and stay calm talk will end in prison. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're coming up against a lot of pessimism and I want to push back on that. I don't think it's going to be nearly as bad as some people think, but it is true that I have heard of several like trans women being attacked or even killed in states like Minnesota, which have sanctuary state laws. So it's not a guarantee that you'll be safe. And yes, Democrats are starting to run anti-trans. Like, nobody wants boys and girls sports. This is just the common sense position to take. I don't know. Yeah, it remains to be seen how everything is going to go. Yes, McBride has a private bathroom that she can retreat to, which is, again, another reason why we're disappointed that she didn't have a more strong stance, because it'll impact people like Josie who have to go up to the Capitol. And it's going to be really fun if we have to do an episode of Takis from prison because Josie's been arrested for using the bathroom.
Honestly, like, I literally had a meeting at work today about how this is going to affect our work because we go to the Capitol all the time to do things. Mm-hmm. Like, I literally go to congressional roundtables and am invited by members of Congress. What, now I have to pee before I go in there? I have to find like a special unisex bathroom? Like, it's so stupid. God, anyways.
I just wanted to say we did get a super chat from Smokes Lots of Weed 420 who wanted speculation on election interference, basically. And I'm just gonna let you know, dude, I'm not gonna put that on the screen. Yeah, not the time or place for it. But thanks for the donation.
Thanks for the donation. And honestly, there's no election interference on either side. We're good. Like, we lost this election fair and square.
$10 from Ari Zeroki Wolf Turner says, for all the red folks relocating red states to blue states, reach out to the Transcontinental Pipeline, tcpipeline.org. They are a 501c3 out of Colorado, and they're working to expand right now. Hot tip. I had not heard of them before.
Yeah. $5 from Alashana Silverbow. What did the dolphin say when it was confused? Sorry, can you please be more specific? Hashtag ballot stuffing for hashtag Team Josie. I'm doing it on purpose.
Wow.
See, Alashana Silverbow usually does ballot stuffing for Arden because Arden's the true ballot stuffer. But apparently I've taken on the mantle.
How dare you? 20 pounds from Herbie Shine. Thank you very much. Says, I wonder if you'd be interested in episode 38 of the Robert Salpolsky Parent and Offspring interviews on YouTube. He answers a question on the differences in cis and trans brains. I found it very interesting, although I'm still learning. Team Stuffer. Yeah. I've looked into this. It's been a while. It seems like the data is not conclusive. We see a bimodal distribution of traits and brains are different after hormone therapy. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't want to rely on that as like, this is how we diagnose people or something.
Yeah, that's true. And note, I will still win against Arden's election interference right now on Team Josie. Sorry, Lux, you are an innocent victim in the battle between Arden and
I'm just catching strays. Here we go. Here's one. 5 Canadian from Brianna Healy. Thank you. I don't know. I don't ever know whose turn it is. Hashtag Team Lux. How can Canadians be supportive of their American friends? If you can sponsor someone who's trying to move there, I know that that's a thing that you can do. Donate money. Even like letting people stay in your house as they establish their residency or whatever. You know, I'm sure that there's plenty more that you can do that we could go on for a while. But like TLDR, be personally supportive to your trans friends who are worried right now.
Absolutely. $5 from Alyssa Ljub. You are annoyed with all of my animal puns? Try coming up with some yourself. Two can play this game. Hashtag I don't know feathers to stop or not. I don't know. Stop or not. Stop or not. See, every time it has a break in a random middle of the word, my dyslexia just goes. And so I lose my mind. Hashtag Team Caballero.
$5 from MD says, hey, Josie, on election night stream, you said if Trump won, that would destroy everything we know about politics. What things did we know were destroyed?
Ooh, good one. And yeah, I was trying to stay positive. Okay, what I meant by that is particularly about campaigning. And it wasn't everything we know about politics. It was about everything that we know about political campaigning was the exact phrasing that I think I used, because we had probably the most effective political campaign get out the vote operation in history. Just the organizational group, the Out for Harris group, which was basically the queer and trans folks, we made 2 million phone calls. And we knocked on hundreds of thousands of doors and raised millions of dollars just from our little segment of the campaign. There has never been in history, in American history, have we seen that much interactions. And what we did see, though, however, is that even in the swing states, we actually did see some growth in certain areas that we haven't seen before. So there was a effect, but I always said that if the election was super close, that it would come down to a field margin. The problem was it wasn't super close. And that's why I was so wrong in my predictions. So what I am now saying about everything that we know about political campaigning, at least for president, we need to start relying more on social media. We need to start relying more on podcasts and big influencers. And we need to have a presidential candidate that can speak like this on stream for 2 to 3 hours, 4 hours without being interrupted, just having a good time, having a conversation with people without having perfectly curated like conversation points that last 30 minutes and a couple times a day. It has to be more uncut conversations. And so that's what I meant. It will destroy everything that we know about campaigning and at the political campaigning level for president. So yes, it did destroy everything we knew. We just have to now adapt and make it better.
For sure. $10 from Mr. Boricua 10 says, good show today. Glad to have caught a live show at work. As for neurodivergence, my big things are science education and politics, especially constitutional rights. Hashtag Team Mitternacht. Okay, I'm going to do it. You read the next one. I'm going to get the cat. Hold on.
Okay. $5 from Monkey at Talkwriter mentioned some of the harassment stories I've heard at work today, and a Trumper laughed. Wow, I'm sorry. Maggots are fucking garbage. Excuse me, that made me sneeze. Maggots are fucking garbage. Hashtag Team Josie owes me 300 electoral votes. I do owe everybody those.
Mm-hmm. It's you personally.
Metternich is a big boy.
Yeah, he sure is. He's like eclipsing me in my own chair.
Yeah.
Aren't you a handsome boy?
My goodness.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to keep him up here as long as I physically can.
I'm so enchanted by him.
I know. He's so pretty. $10 from RC Deshen says, I just want to thank Josie for the way she conducted her energy on election night. Despite the doomerism, she went out of her way to keep a sense of hope. That will always be meaningful to me. It doesn't count as a vote, though. Ha ha!
Aww. I appreciate that. Even though Arden wanted to like yeet me out of the chat. She was like ready to like ban me from that election night. I know. Arden, I know. I saw it in your eyes. I saw it in your eyes.
Listen.
Like,
the problem was we were getting positivity at the time where basically the only way she was going to win states was if she got like 98% of the remaining votes to come in, which just would not, it's so improbable that I was like, why are we getting positivity right now? Let's be real. Trump is going to win and we're all fucked. And I was right. So
all I know is after the stream, I went and I sat down and started looking at things. And I literally said, oh no, I think he's going to win Pennsylvania. And then literally 2 seconds later, CNN called it. And so I was like doing the math on my calculator. I was like, but you know what? People on stream appreciated my energy. So take that, Arden. Take that.
Congrats. Now read the super chat. Dance.
£5. £5 from Mystic Minds, Analyst Tavern, Gloria Fortis, Miles, hashtag resist and fight. Fight hard, resist, and do what's right. Become undeniable. Live to spite those transphobes. Yes, I agree. And become undeniable is one of my favorite phrases. It's like be undeniable. Like that's the energy I'm bringing in when I run for election.
Yeah. Just straight up stealing from the
there's news on the horizon, but we'll talk about that later.
MI. $5 from Skeptoidius. Matt Gaetz pulling out of the AG nomination makes sense since he has zero interest being in anything over 13. Hashtag Team Lux the Dragon. It's true. Matt Gaetz.
True. Oh no, can you hear people downstairs? Anyways, $10 from Natty Yvette Chambers. The Jewish Museum has a couple of videos on trans people who died in the Holocaust. Videos about Argentinian trans women imprisoned during Vidal's dictatorship are there too. There's what's coming up. What's coming up. I will agree with you when we see President Donald Trump Jr. I will not believe it till that happens.
Canadian $10 from Jay Palmer says, end the reign of the Josie Empire. Join the rebellion. Hashtag Team Lux. P.S. Thank you both for all you do. Thank you. Join the rebellion. Damn the man. Save the empire. Anyway.
This is good campaign messaging for Lux. This is what we call a counter narrative, a counter message. You know, this is contrasting. Sorry, in political science is a contrasting message, and join the rebellion seems to be the message that's the best contrasting.
There you go.
$10 from YouTuber Grudge. I have found myself in a little bit of a privileged position right now, and it kills me that I can't offer the same privilege to other. Arg, hashtag Team NB, hashtag Team Lux. I feel that.
$5 from Jamnico6 says, where do crows go to get drunk? A crow bar. Hashtag Jamnik murdered that joke. Hashtag can't let Alyashana have all the pun. And hashtag Team Mitternacht. Yes. Thank you, Chonka Donker. I love you.
See, the team stuffer is affecting me. Oh, no, never mind. It's fine. $5 from Haley Gridger. How scared should I be in Michigan? We do have we do still have Gretch, but we lost both houses. I have a good job and a family of 5. Difficult to uproot. Hashtag Team Josie. I think in Michigan you're still fine. We may see some weird rollbacks on some things, but I think that Michigan's not going to go ultra red like overnight. There's still a lot of systems that are in place that will help you.
$5 from Monkey at Typewriter. Thank you. Says, I feel like our side needs a reality check. Bigots will bigot, and they're a plurality of the species. Trust when people make veiled threats. Hashtag Team Josie. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, a plurality. I don't think so. I don't know that you could reasonably say that it's a plurality. I mean, and people keep saying like, oh, a majority of voters or a majority of Americans. It's like a majority of the people who showed up for this election, y'all, which is still
It's also a
represents like
tiny
a
margin
fifth of
now.
total Americans. Yeah. Oh yeah, and the more votes we get in, the slimmer the margin is.
Yeah, it's not a very big mandate to lead. It's like people were like, "This is a huge mandate for Trump." Like, I'm sure a lot of people heard that on the news when it happened. It's like, "This is giant. This is enormous." This is, and I was like, "Well, as we actually count the votes, it wasn't that big of a mandate. So hopefully that will slow down his bullshit." So we'll see what happens during the confirmation process. $5 from Alashana Silverbow. I know the PNW is relatively safe for the queer community, but how safe will anywhere in the U.S. really be? Hashtag no puns time. Hashtag Team Josie. It will be relatively safe at the moment, but there will be places that won't be. Like the rosiest picture can't be true for places like Alabama and Florida and Texas, and where people are going to lose their health care. But right now they're going to be focusing on federal changes before they start doing things at the state level. The things that we have to worry about is some states are more cruel than others, and the federal government is not going to block them. That's where we have to think about what's going on.
$5 from Allison Liddell Alice says transgender people can request asylum in the U.S. Isn't that funny? Ha 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 ha. Yeah. And people in the U.S. can't apply for asylum elsewhere because there are technically sanctuary states here still. So yeah. Fun times.
Yeah. We should stop entertaining the notion that people's religions are about love. If Christianity is about love, North Korea is a democratic republic. Yeah, I feel that hardcore.
True. $5 from Aliashana Silverbow says, what did the cat and dog sing together at karaoke night? Don't stop retrieving. Hold on to the feline. Feline. This pun is formidable. Hashtag one more pun. Hashtag Team Josie. Aliashana Silverbow. How dare you? It's like, let me just keep stuffing more ballots in there. All right.
$5 from Charlotte. Hashtag Team Josie on behalf of Alex. Aw, that's nice.
$5 from Charlotte says hashtag Team Moss on behalf of myself. Thank you. The moss is growing. You can't stop it.
That's true. $5 from Ari Zirkewolf? Zero Key Wolf. Kai Wolf. Probably Kai Wolf. Zero Kai
I would say
Wolf.
Zeroki.
Zeroki? Oh my gosh. See, I can't do these names. I can't. Turner.
Yeah, it's not friendly to dyslexia.
It's not. I forgot to vote earlier. Thank you for shouting out the transcontinental pipeline. Hashtag Team Lux.
$5 from RC Deshen says hashtag big time Team Josie major respect. This is you're sweeping. I don't think there's anything I can do at this point.
No, I've come back and Arden's had a heavier lead. So that's
okay.
Yeah, it's very
remains
possible.
To be seen.
See, I'm optimistic even when I'm winning for the people that are losing.
Yeah, you're becoming my campaign strategist right now.
I know. It's like, it's okay. You got this.
Oh, gosh.
$5 from Nadia Yvette Chambers. Positively ignoring ongoing threats is radical risk. Management malpractice. Long-term material outcomes outweigh decorum and short-term mood lifting. Remember, we can't put all our hopes on one person, even if they are the highest elected trans person in the land. There are still massive trans organizations working in tandem with each other and queer organizations that will make this a much harder push. We also have allies. This fight is long from over. Like, we may have reached a setback of who has the wheel right now, but we still have control of certain pedals and things like that to slow things down, break things, and speed things up where we need them. So it's really easy to spiral in the doomerism, but in reality, we will have wins. Like that is something that I just want everybody to know. We will have wins next year. We will possibly knock out some more appointments. We lost Matt Gaetz today. Like it's not going to be a rosy, sunshiny, like we're going to win all this stuff and we're going to have trans liberation in 2025. We're not going to have the Equality Act pass, but we will have victories. So because if we just give up and just say there's no victories, there's no point, we will lose everything. So it's the same type of thing. It's like we have to fight hard now so we aren't just resorting to decorum and all of this stuff. So I will say we will continue the fight, and we're not giving up. We're not giving up. You know, danger is not a stranger to the trans community. Like before, a trans community person walked down the street, a police officer would beat you to death. But now we are not at that point. So we are still going to fight to win our liberation.
I also want to point out that lifting people's spirits is a material outcome, and that in order for people to be effective, you need them to not want to kill themselves. So we have to be optimistic, even in the face of, stacked odds, basically. And we can't get too doomer, or we will become less effective community organizers and citizens. So $5 from YouTuber Grudge says #Team Lux, can't let the stuffer win. 3 more. Can we get 3 more just to tie it up?
Nope. No, it's not gonna happen. The trends aren't there. $5 from Empress Lizard. Tuning in late, but I think Josie should take Gaetz' nomination. Thank you. Think you can suck up the throat right quick. LOL. #Team Josie. Okay, yeah, all I gotta do is just tweet them on True Social, right? Just have a little video saying, "Hi, I'm a MAGA, I'm a trans woman, and I'm gonna make sure all those transes suffer." I'd get nominated like that. You're right. You know what? Maybe Empress Lizard is on to something.
If this were election night right now, Josie would be telling us that Lux definitely has a shot, even though there's only 1 vote left to count, and the margin is too large. It's gonna be fine.
It's gonna be fine. And of course, it's a vote for me, just like it was election night. $5 from the second son of Jim. Trump's mandate is Elon. #Team Josie. Thank you. And unfortunately true.
2 more.
2 more to just slide in.
2 more shall take its place.
Oh.
Hey, $10 from Chris Frank says #Team Lux. I still don't think we're going to get there, but I mean, listen, they're still coming in. You are running out of time to get these votes
$5
in.
from Mr. Barigua. 10. #Team Lux.
They're still
oh my
happening.
gosh, people are
$5.
Still, no.
I know. Haha. This is what happens. $5 from Ari Zeroki Wolf Turner says, do not go quietly into the night. If you can be colorful, still do it. Still be you. Make the transphobes uncomfortable all year. #Team Lux. Yes. Look at this. All these people coming
Josie,
out.
don't sleep. Don't sleep, Team Josie. Don't you dare sleep on this. Don't you do it. $5 from Mr. Barigua. 10. #Team Lux. Oh, come on. You have to come back in, Team Josie. Let's go.
$5 from YouTuber Grudge says #Team Lux.
Oh!
They're still trickling in. It's still happening.
Come on, Team Josie. Let's go. Show up. $5 from Melatonin Ali. #Team Josie @Team Stuffer. Yes. Is it a tie? No.
It is. I'm going to say, but there's new ones coming in.
2 more.
I'm going to say first to get to 20 is going to be, is where we're going to cap it.
Well, that's fair. You already see the 2. You see the 2 that are 20.
Well,
no,
that's not my problem.
Right ballot rigging. Ballot rigging. This is Team Josie. Come on. Don't let this happen.
$5 New Zealand dollars from 4 Moogles says, for the Empire Records reference, #Team Lux. Yes, I knew that at least one person was going to appreciate that.
$5 from Mr. Riqua 10. #Team Lux. Wow.
$5 from YouTuber Grudge says, #Team Mitternacht. The count is over now, but thank you.
Yeah,
Vote for the
we're
fat
gonna
queen.
call the count because it's gonna keep going forever. Although there are still
Hey,
super
but
chats coming in.
somebody's-
We did get a Team
somebody
Josie's
gave-
mom. You can get 19.
Team Josie's mom. Yeah.
There was another Team Lux. Read this one from Nadia.
Nadia says it wasn't about McBride. It was about people fighting harder to silence doomerism and ignore explicitly articulated enemy intentions like prison than to actually save people from those intentions. Yeah. You know, we can literally go on forever about what happened at this election. So,
yeah.
Lux got another one. So it looks
Yeah.
like Josie is the loser and is going to have to defend that spoons are, you can only eat spaghetti with spoons. So let me prep this up here.
You know what the worst part is? I was eating spaghetti with a fork. Like, this is terrible.
no
If
principles.
I only had a
You
spoon.
politicians have no principles.
All right.
And somebody asked, does Josie have a pet? I do. Her name is Annie, and she's a dog. She's a cutie, but she's not here with me now.
All right. Are you ready, Josie?
Let me think for 2 seconds here.
One, Mississippi,
Okay,
two.
sure.
Okay. All right.
All right, ready.
The clock is charging up with 2 minutes. Ready, set, go.
Yeah, so if you are Italian, you would know that you're supposed to eat spaghetti with a spoon. The fork is just there to prime the moment of putting the spaghetti on the spoon. So if you think about the people who created spaghetti in the first place, had a spoon involved in the first place, shows that spoons are obviously the way you're supposed to do it. Also, spoons are easier to manufacture, and forks are, they're elitist bullshit. They were created by royalty. All right, like we don't like. Did the poor disenfranchised people have the ability to have forks made of metal? No, they had spoons. They just whittled a spoon right there. So obviously the spoon is for the working class, and the Italians already showed us how to do it with the spoon. Like, and honestly, like, think about it. And if you're thinking about, like, let's go with ramen, which is also a very stringy noodle, you don't even use a fork there either. You use chopsticks and put it into a spoon. So obviously spoons are superior, especially if you want extra sauce on that spaghetti. Like, use that spoon to get that extra sauce. So it's clear that from the beginning of when spaghetti was created, spoons were involved and forks came way later. Forks are just for lazy, I'm just gonna just twirl a spoon. Oh, it's fork. No, you use the spoon. Make yourself work for it, because really that's what it's all about. And you could get that extra sauce in there. You want extra saucy spaghetti? Well, you're just gonna finish the bowl of spaghetti, and what's gonna be left at the bottom of your bowl? A bunch of sauce. And that's like the best part. So if you really want to have a good meal with some good spaghetti with extra sauce, use that spoon, put that spaghetti on top of it, and then have yourself a bite. And that is the best way it's supposed to be enjoyed.
Well, the Josie Mirage had us fooled, but Lex came in with the win. Josie slandered all Italians. We'll see if her reputation ever recovers.
Yeah, we'll find out. We lost all the Italian American voters.
No, Italians do eat spaghetti with a spoon. What are you talking about? That is the way you're supposed to properly eat spaghetti.
Isn't it with a fork and then a spoon?
Yeah,
you twirl it
Yeah.
and then you put it on the spoon and then you eat it.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
the
way
premise
it's
of this
supposed to
is that
be.
you can't use a fork. Anyway, let's wrap the show up.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us for Transatlantic Call-In Show.
Yeah.
I believe we are not doing tacos next week. It is Thanksgiving. Enjoy eating food or being lazy or whatever it is that you
spoon.
plan on doing next week. Yes. Eat your turkey with a spoon exclusively. Eat your
Yes.
whole meal with a spoon. Just shovel it in. That's
Yes.
what Thanksgiving is all about. The most
then when
American
people
holiday.
say-
Shovel it in.
And when people say, why are you doing that? Just say Team Josie, and then they will understand. And no further explanation needed.
True. Thanks everybody. Join the Patreon and you can get in the credits on the side
Patreon.
here. Do it.
I know. Like, look how many people. This list is like so long. Do you remember when the list was like teeny tiny, and then all the cool kids
Bitty.
said, "You know what? I'm in here too." Yeah, because that's what the cool kids do. They join the Patreon. I think I'm even on this
True.
list. Am I on this list? If I'm not on this list, there's a problem. I've never checked.
I don't believe you are.